Chapter 1371. What? Your Majesty, I was just giving an example. I didn't mean it that way. Ah, you know what I mean, right? Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and acted like he was being casual. His eyes glanced towards Ice Queen, who knew that Ice Queen didn't even look at him, turning her face and half her body away. From Yi Qinghan's angle, he could see the side of Ice Queen's body. Without a doubt, apart from her cold aura, Ice Queen was a top beauty. Snow-white skin, extremely exquisite features, towering breasts, and a small waist. She was sitting sideways and one could see half of her round, but due to her uneasiness, it was twisting slightly. Unknowingly, Yi Qinghan recalled how Ice Queen climbed up in a panic and put on her robe when he used his spiritual sense to scan. He could still remember how Ice Queen's round, but was twisting in the air, as well as the endless flirtatious feeling between her cleavage. Along with him staring at Ice Queen's, but Yi Qinghan felt like he could see through her robe and see the beauty within. His entire body was filled with a bone-piercing feeling. As expected, this emperor isn't a good person. Why is he staring at that place? Although Ice Queen turned her head away shyly, how could she not sense Yi Qinghan's gaze? Seeing Yi Qinghan stare at her, but his expression was one of infatuation. Ice Queen really wanted to die. She really wanted to dig a hole to bury herself in. But it was like her legs were rooted to the ground. She didn't even have the strength to lift them up. On the contrary, a strange emotion emerged in her heart, causing her plump buttocks to sway even more cheerfully. Yi Qinghan looked for a while and realized that he was about to drool. He sucked in a deep breath and shifted his eyes away. He pouted and felt ashamed. After a moment, he couldn't help but take another look. Coincidentally, his gaze met with Ice Queen's. The two of them were like thieves as they shifted their gazes away. Then, the two of them acted like nothing had happened and focused on admiring the decorations in the palace. It seemed like the palace today was really beautiful. A wife is not as good as a concubine, and a concubine is not as good as an adulterer. The taste of adultery seems to be more exciting. Ice Queen's behavior today is really special. Could it be like what Jui said, she is really interested in me? As he thought about it, Yi Qinghan's mind became active. If it was true, it seemed like a good idea to fuse ice and fire together. Although his thoughts were running wild, his current appearance was that he was staring at an ancient sword on the wall of the palace very seriously. He was observing it very seriously, as if it was not just a good-looking superior grade god artifact, but a hidden supreme spiritual treasure. Thinking about it, Yi Qinghan's gaze would drift towards the Ice Queen. Of course, Ice Queen could sense Yi Qinghan's gaze. Originally, she should have covered her face and run away in shame. However, she was the owner of the Ice and Snow Island. If Yi Qinghan didn't take the initiative to leave, how could she send him off? Moreover, the special relationship between her and Yi Qinghan, the flirtatious aura in the air, although it made her feel really shy, but it seemed like there was a different kind of stimulation, until Yi Qinghan started to sweep around her body in an unrestrained manner. Ice Queen finally couldn't take it anymore. She casually cupped her fists and said shyly, "Emperor Yu, do you have anything else? If not, you can sit here, I have something to do." Oh! Yi Qinghan came to his senses and stood up. He acted like he was polite. Nothing. Thank you, Queen, for answering my questions. I will head back first. If I have time, I will come to Fire Dragon City to play. No, if I have time, I will come and sit. Ha. I will leave first. Stop sending me off. Please don't send me off. Yi Qinghan walked out while waving his hands passionately. However, he noticed that Ice Queen had no intention of sending him off. He touched his nose in embarrassment and rubbed his hands. He used his cold power and teleported away. Poochie, Ice Queen smiled. Like an ice mountain melting and a snow lotus spreading, a hint of spring appeared on her brow. She was so beautiful that it broke one's heart. Yi Qinghan returned to Fire Dragon City and sat alone on the rooftop. He gulped down a few cups of tea before he calmed himself down. In his mind, Ice Queen's white body couldn't help but appear, making him unable to calm down. Not long after, a girl in a pink dress walked over. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was in a daze, she tiptoed behind Yi Qinghan and covered Yi Qinghan's eyes. She said in a low and muffled voice. You are not allowed to use your spiritual sense to look. Guess who I am? Yi Qing'an smiled. Even if he didn't use his spiritual sense, he could easily sense her aura. Moreover, even if he couldn't sense her aura, his wife loved to play such games, which was the cute and mischievous Firework. He purposely sighed and said, Stop fooling around, Cherry Blossom. I know it's you. Although Firework was already a mother, she was still as beautiful as a young girl. When she heard that, she pouted, Not coming. I'm not coming. You are messing with me. You know who I am, but you purposely say the wrong thing every time. Ha! Yi Qing'an laughed out loud. He turned around and pulled Firework over. He placed her on his lap and kissed her. Little Firework, you aren't going to accompany Zishi today. Are you messing around? I heard that not long ago, Zishi went out to play in disguise and was bullied. You went over and crippled her? Ha, my little Firework is so cool. Firework angrily raised her fist and smashed it. I'm not coming. Qing'an, you are making fun of me. That bird young master relied on his father being an island head in Star Ocean to harm beautiful girls. I was already being nice by not killing him. Zishi was scared out of her wits. As a father, why didn't you comfort her? Hee, if they don't experience the wind and rain, they will never grow up. Flowers in a greenhouse will never grow in a towering trees. It's good to let them suffer a little. Yi Qing'an stroked Firework's silky black hair and smiled. Is there something you need from me? Yi Qing'an had a rule that all his women knew. When he sat on the rooftop of Fiery Dragon City, he was either thinking about something or cultivating. If there wasn't anything serious, they wouldn't disturb him. That was why Yi Qing'an had asked such a question. Firework frowned and paused for a moment before saying, I'm fine. Actually, Shui asked me to let you keep an eye on Xiaohe. Xiaohe has been going out to play a lot lately. Shui is worried that something will happen to him. Xiaohe is stronger than me. What could possibly happen to him? Yi Qing'an grinned and stared at Firework, as if he could see through her thoughts. Firework felt uneasy, so he smiled and said, Shui is worried that Xiaohe is fooling around outside, right? That he will bring a bunch of women back to take her place? It's good that you know. You men are all bad. Firework glared at Yi Qing'an and said angrily, It's not that Shui doesn't allow Xiaohe to take a concubine. If she has a good character and comes from a decent family, Shui will definitely agree. She's just worried that Xiaohe is too simple-minded. It would be bad if he was tricked by some shady woman. Yi Qing'an thought for a moment and said, Tell Shui that Xiaohe has been suppressing his feelings for too long. Let him loose for once. He will come back when he's tired of playing. Tell her not to worry. I don't care if Xiaohe plays outside. However, if other women want to enter her house, if she doesn't agree, I will step in. Xiaohe still listens to me. Chapter 1372. Law Comprehension? Which type of profound mystery should I choose to start comprehending? Yi Qing'an stood in the War Emperor Hall and looked at the stone steels in the hall. He didn't know where to start. Ice Queen said that after one reached grade 9, it would be easier to comprehend the laws. Yi Qing'an was really interested when he heard that. He went to Seal God Valley and told Li Shui to call him when Xiaohe came back. After accompanying his wives for a few days, he brought Yao Ji in to cultivate. Yao Ji, tell me, which one should I comprehend first? Yi Qing'an looked at the Yao Ji, who was sitting on the jade bed with a book on restriction, and wanted to ask for her opinion. After Yao Ji found out that Yi Qing'an was going to cultivate the profound mysteries of the laws, she knew that there would be a long period of time where she would need Yao Ji's sparring partner. After all, after entering the 5th level of spiritual quietude, her cultivation speed would increase exponentially. Thus, she told Yi Qing'an to move a jade bed, a table, and many other pieces of furniture to this stone steel hall. For her to sit on the bed and do that every day, it wasn't convenient, right? When she heard Yi Qing'an's words, Yao Ji smiled and said, Since you said that comprehending mysteries above grade 9 would allow the laws of heaven and earth to recognize the cultivator, then isn't it the same no matter what law you comprehend? Why not comprehend the easiest elemental laws like the wind or earth element? Okay, then let's comprehend the earth element first. I've already comprehended a fundamental profound of the earth element, the earth traversal art. I'll first comprehend the other 4 fundamental profound mysteries of the earth element. Yi Ching Han nodded his head and walked to the side to search for the earth element stone steel. The 5 basics of the earth element: power of earth, earth movement technique, earth tremor, earth arteries, and thick earth. Yi Ching Han had already comprehended the earth movement technique, so he walked in front of the earth power stone steel. His cold energy circulated and his eyes lit up. The scenes in front of him started to change. The temptress looked at Yi Ching Han affectionately, then picked up the restriction book and continued to comprehend the restriction. Although Yi Ching Han said that it was easier to comprehend grade 9 and above, it would still take a few months. Unexpectedly, half a day, just half a day. The glow in Yi Ching Han's eyes dimmed, and his face was filled with shock. He turned his head and looked at Yao Ji in a daze. How long have I been comprehending for? Half a day, why? Yao Ji placed down the book and asked curiously. Power of earth, I have comprehended it. Yi Ching Han scratched his head. Even he was frightened. Weird things happen again. Although the basics were the easiest to comprehend, although Ice Queen said that it would be easier to comprehend grade 9 and above, although his comprehension speed was overpowered, he didn't dare to. But in just half a day, a completely unfamiliar foundation profound mystery had already reached the entry stage. Wasn't this too terrifying? On the other hand, the temptress was incomparably calm. In any case, Yi Ching Han was a freak. Even if he comprehended all 5 of the fundamental profound mysteries of the earth element in just a few days, she wouldn't be surprised. Could it be because of the cold realm again? Yi Ching Han was a little confused. He pondered for a moment and decided to just ignore it. Moreover, he did not continue to comprehend the power of earth until it reached full mastery. Instead, he turned his head to the side and began to comprehend the earthquake. In the end, half a day later, the light in Yi Ching Han's eyes was no longer shining, and the bewilderment on his face became even stronger. Without saying a word, he turned towards the throbbing pulse of the earth stone steel. After another half a day, he once again withdrew from comprehension. This time, there was no expression on his face. He silently walked towards the last mysterious stone steel, solid earth. Another half a day passed. When Yi Ching Han opened his eyes, the temptress finally couldn't contain the shock in her heart. She swallowed, looked at Yi Ching Han anxiously, and said, Little Han, you couldn't have comprehended all 4 fundamental profound mysteries of the earth element, right? Yi Ching Han turned his head around mechanically, his eyes filled with confusion, and nodded numbly. The temptress's body trembled, and the little red string on her waist suddenly twisted, her whole body shaking. When did the foundation profound mysteries become cabbages? Comprehending all 4 fundamental profound mysteries in 2 days? If Yi Ching Han could continue cultivating at this speed, wouldn't he be able to reach 9th grade supreme martial artist in 10,000 years' time? If Yi Ching Han could comprehend all the profound mysteries of the laws so easily, wouldn't he be able to comprehend all 9 ultimate mysteries easily, and finally become the legendary divine emperor supreme martial artist? Although Yi Ching Han's talent was freakish, comprehending a middle-grade profound mystery, absolute space domain, even with the help of the illusory palace, still took 10 years, okay? Now, the temptress didn't know what happened, and looked at Yi Ching Han carefully, trying to find an answer from his body and expression. In fact, Yi Ching Han didn't know what happened, so the two looked at each other, speechless. What's the reason? If it's because of the cold boundary, what's the principle? If the other laws were so easy to comprehend, wouldn't I be able to easily reach 9th grade supreme martial artist? And possibly comprehend all 9 ultimate mysteries, and become a divine emperor supreme martial artist? Yi Ching Han thought it absurd, and felt that everything seemed unreal. But he had truly comprehended the 4 fundamental profound mysteries of the earth element. The two looked at each other, and looked at each other for a long time. Yi Ching Han simply didn't care about it anymore. He turned his head and walked towards the stone steels of the other element's foundation profound mysteries. He wanted to see, whether or not this strange matter would continue to occur, and whether or not he would be able to easily comprehend the profound mysteries of the other elements. The temptress didn't dare to speak, and watched nervously as Yi Qinghan walked towards the stone steels of the fundamental mysteries of the fire element, waiting for a miracle to be born. A miracle was born 1 month later. In just 30 days, Yi Qinghan had comprehended a total of 19 fundamental mysteries of the metal, wood, water, and fire elements. Except for the profound mystery of traceless wind, which he had already comprehended, the remaining 19 fundamental mysteries were all comprehended, including the original 2 days. In a mere 32 days, Yi Qinghan had comprehended all the fundamental mysteries of the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth elements. The comprehension of laws was the hardest to comprehend. As long as he could comprehend it and continue to verify and deduce in the future, mastery was just a matter of time. In 32 days, 23 fundamental mysteries of the 5 elements, all of them were comprehended. If this matter were to spread to the divine world, to other planes, to the divine emperors, wouldn't everyone be scared silly? The temptress was completely dumbfounded and could only swallow her saliva. Her snow-white skin was rosy, and her eyes were full of charm. If Yi Qinghan wanted her at this moment, she would most likely respond in the most passionate way. To show her worship of Yi Qinghan at this moment, Yi Qinghan wasn't so shocked anymore. Instead, he felt a sense of relief. In these days, he had comprehended all the fundamental mysteries of all the elements once. Light, darkness, thunder, destruction, time, and so on. The strange thing was that for the other elements, not to mention half a day, he couldn't even comprehend them in 2 days, and he had no clue at all. Yi Qinghan frowned, and after a long time, he raised his head and murmured, "I can comprehend the profound mysteries so easily. It seems it really has something to do with the cold boundary. I can't comprehend the other elements, but metal, wood, water, fire, and earth elements, these 5 elements are easily comprehended, as if they exist in my mind. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth? Isn't this the 5 elements in ancient China? What does this have to do with my cold boundary? Why can I easily comprehend these 5 elements? Is there some special secret behind this?" Chapter 1373. Bang, bang, bang. On the peaceful peak of Mount Pan, 3 knocks suddenly rang out. Outside the small wooden house on the left, Pan Xing heavily knocked on the door with a face full of killing intent. His eyes were filled with anger as he knocked on the door loudly. There was a powerful restriction in the wooden house. Even if he wanted to force his way in, it would be very difficult. Right now, he looked extremely angry, so he used a rough method. "Pan Xing, are you crazy?" The door silently opened, and Pan Xing's pleasant voice sounded. Pan Xing didn't say anything and walked in with a gloomy face. As soon as he entered the wooden door, Pan Xing's figure suddenly disappeared and reappeared outside a purple palace. The scenery outside the palace was very beautiful. There were bridges, pavilions and courtyards, flowers and plants, small beasts, clouds and mist. It was like a fairyland. However, Pan Xing clearly didn't have the mood to enjoy the scenery. He walked in angrily, turned around the main hall, and entered through a small door. He came to a side hall. He looked coldly at Pan Xing, who was sitting on the mink leather chair, and sat opposite her. He glared at her and didn't say anything. "Did you eat gunpowder? If you are angry, go back and vent. Don't be an eyesore here." Pan Xing's face turned cold, but she didn't dare to look at Pan Xing. Pan Xing said coldly, "Pan Xing, not bad." "You are not bad." Pan Xing's eyebrows furrowed slightly and said, "Speak, don't mock me. You know what you have done." Pan Xing was even angrier. The anger in his eyes could melt Pan Xing. Pan Xing stood up angrily and shouted, "What did I do?" "Pan Xing, if you don't make things clear, we will talk to Pan Huang." "Feeling guilty?" "Ha! Even if we go to Pan Huang, I am not afraid." Pan Xing stood up and stared at Pan Xing. Someone broke through the barrier of Pangaea. "This is breaking the laws of heaven and earth. I am in charge of the laws and laws of Pangaea. I have to deal with this, but you are interfering. What are your intentions? Do you want the laws of Pangaea to be chaotic? You want Pangaea to riot? You want Pangaea to be destroyed? Pan Shi's eyes flashed with panic, but she immediately calmed down. What did you say? I am interfering? What proof do you have? Humph. Pan Xing smiled mockingly and said, This emperor has thought about it for a long time. That man and that beast's strength suddenly increased explosively. Essence energy appeared in their bodies. This is simply impossible. Only you have the divine ability to secretly give them elemental energy. During that period of time, you were going in and out, behaving strangely. It was not your usual style at all. If it wasn't you, then who was it? After hearing this, Pan Shi was relieved. These were all Pan Xing's speculations. As long as he didn't have any evidence, it would be fine. She smiled and said, Evidence? Without evidence, you can say whatever you want. Why don't you talk to Pan Huang? Pan Xing was infuriated. He let out a few long breaths and said angrily, All right, you want to help him, right? You think this emperor can't find him? In the next planar war, I'll let the surviving planes participate. Do you think I'll be able to find him? When we find that person, this emperor will tear him to pieces in front of you. At that time, let's see how you will help him. Pan Xing flicked his sleeves and left. He had made up his mind. In the next planar war, he would let all the surviving legions with experts participate. If he couldn't find him once, then he would try 10 times or even 100 times. He didn't believe that he couldn't find the person who broke through Pan Jie's barrier. After Pan Xing left, Pan Shi's entire body softened. Her beautiful face, which could make any man go crazy, was now filled with sorrow. After sitting for a while, she raised her head and looked through the window into the distance. It was as if she could see Yi Qinghan standing in the War Imperial Hall. She said faintly, Young man, I can't help you anymore. Whether you live or die in the future, whether you can become the next divine emperor or not, it all depends on your fate. Although he had comprehended the fundamental mysteries of the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, Yi Qinghan wasn't foolish enough to try comprehending them together with him. He planned to cultivate the fundamental mysteries of the law of earth first. He wanted to comprehend the 4 fundamental mysteries of the law of earth to great success. After that, he would keep fusing them until he finally comprehended the ultimate mystery of the law of earth to great success. Only then would he comprehend the other fundamental mysteries of the law of earth. After confirming his target, Yi Qinghan walked to the large bed. The Yaoji understood and lay down. Her eyes were half closed, full of charm and seduction. Come up. Unexpectedly, Yi Qinghan climbed onto the bed and lay down beside the Yaoji. He patted the Yaoji's buttocks domineeringly and shouted, So fierce. You're so domineering. Great Emperor. The Yaoji smiled sweetly. Her watery eyes were full of seduction. She twisted her slender waist and climbed onto the bed. Then she began to bustle about. Since he had comprehended the fundamental mysteries of the law of earth, Yi Qinghan could go into seclusion and continue comprehending them. When he had comprehended all 4 fundamental mysteries, he would come out of seclusion to look at the stone steel of the law of earth. As the Yaoji's slender waist twisted, the War Imperial Hall became filled with wind and rain. It was a grand scene. Sometimes waves crashed against the shore, sometimes thunder rumbled, and sometimes it rained cats and dogs. The scene was so shocking that there was no need for outsiders to know. A long, long time passed. When the wind and rain stopped, the bed was a mess. It was full of traces of the wind and rain. Yi Qinghan had already entered the 5th level of soul quietness and began his secluded meditation. However, the enchantress did not immediately get up to clean up the battlefield. She was like a dying little fish that had been slapped by the waves on the shore, and her eyes were about to roll back. After a long while, little temptress finally caught her breath and sat up. She helped Yi Qinghan clean up and tidied up the bed. She didn't wear her undergarments anymore. Instead, she put on a robe and continued to comprehend her favorite restriction techniques. Yao Ji was very smart. She knew that it was impossible for her strength to improve, and she did not have much interest in the law realms. Therefore, he wholeheartedly studied restrictions. After so many years, his level of restrictions had reached a very high realm. Although he couldn't compare to the Soul Emperor, he still couldn't compare to the Battle Emperor. However, she was confident that there was no one in the divine realm who had a higher level of restrictions than her, and she would be more useful to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan had brought back a few primal divine crystals from the planar battlefield. He had asked her if she wanted to refine them, but the enchantress rejected him without hesitation. With her strength as a paragon, refining the primal divine crystals would only allow her to reach the upper 9th grade, and it would not be of much use. Instead, it would be better for Monarch Yinran, Jida, and the others to refine them. Since she rejected such a strong temptation, Yi Qinghan obviously admired and adored her even more. The enchantress was very happy about this. Although Yi Qinghan's harem looked very harmonious on the surface, everyone was secretly competing with each other. The battle between women would always happen inexplicably, and would also end inexplicably. Buzz. At this time, a jade talisman on the bed vibrated. The enchantress picked it up and saw that it was a message from Fireworks. Xiaohei had finally returned after playing outside for a few years. The enchantress knew that before Yi Qinghan came in, he had instructed Li Shui to send a message to Xiaohei when he returned. She also knew that Yi Qinghan was waiting for Xiaohei to have enough fun before going to Nifa's abyss with him to devour the 3 suppressed demon sovereigns. However, the 3 demon sovereigns were suppressed below. As long as the restrictions were not touched, they would never come out, so there was no need to worry. It would not be too late to take Xiaohei to devour them after Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion. Thus, she picked up the communication jade talisman and sent a message, tell Xiaohei to stay in the Seal Temple. When Xiaohan comes out of seclusion, we will go to Nifa's abyss together and devour the 3 demon sovereigns. Chapter 1374. Inside the holy city of the Flame Dragon. The holy city was expanding again. Geniuses from the immortal world kept coming here. There was no need to find someone to gather them. The entire holy world and hundreds of thousands of material planes knew of the existence of the holy city. They knew that this was the gathering place of geniuses. Those who could enter the holy city would be like a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. Their status was more glorious than that of the disciples of the big families. The holy city recruited people once every 5 years. Those who had cultivated for less than 100 years could come for the assessment. As long as they were geniuses or those with potential, they could enter the holy city. Once in the holy city, they could obtain countless spirit fruits and treasures. They could receive guidance from level 9 powerhouses. There were all kinds of mysterious steals for them to study. It would be hard not to improve their strength. Moreover, there were countless children of the big families, the children of the monarchs, and even the children of the great emperors. Commoner girls could have the opportunity to hook up with these young masters and marry into the rich. Ordinary men could also become phoenix men. Beautiful women, status, and glory were at their fingertips. Recently, there was another benefit in the holy city. Emperor Xiaohei had become the instructor of the holy city. The disciples of the holy city would have the opportunity to receive personal guidance from Emperor Xiaohei. Who was Emperor Xiaohei? He was a great hero who saved the immortal world. He was a supreme martial artist like Emperor Han Yi. Xiaohei had gone out for a few years. He and Kid disguised themselves and went around several continents. They even went to countless material planes and hooked up with many beautiful women. But recently, he came back without any interest. He even told Li Shui seriously that he would never go out again. He even said that he would go to the holy city to be an instructor. Li Shui was overjoyed. Of course, she agreed. Xiaohei had gone out for a few years. She was already very happy that he did not bring back any women. She also knew that he could not calm down. If he wanted to fool around, then let him do it. Xiaohei's law realm was only at the peak of the heavenly god realm. He had never cultivated all these years. He used to rely on his supernatural power to kill enemies. Now he relied on his mutated devouring ability. What could he teach as an instructor? If it was not fooling around, then what was it? Lei Jun was the city lord of the Flame Dragon Sacred City, the chief instructor. Although they didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Xiaohei's request, since he had brought it up, they didn't want to embarrass him, so they gave him the title of an honorary instructor. Today was the day of Emperor Xiao Hei's first lecture. The public square of Holy City was already filled with people. The men were all dressed in green robes, and the women were all dressed in white. They sat cross-legged on either side of the square. Hundreds of thousands of people were silent, but the excitement on their faces could not be concealed. Of course, there were also 7 or 8 people below who would occasionally look at each other and laugh quietly. Among Yi Qinghan's children, except for Yi Sahan who got married, the rest didn't get married. They all swore that they wouldn't get married until they reached the god the Archrealm. Although he didn't marry, Yi Qinghan's sons inherited his dissolute character and had a group of female friends. Although Yi Qinghan's daughters and Demon Devourer had countless pursuers, none of them were interested in them. Growing up under the legends of Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei, they could feel Yi Qinghan's infatuation and love for his wives. The girls' expectations of their lovers had also become higher. Breaking through to the god the Archrealm in 10,000 years? How dare he pursue me with this kind of talent? My father broke through to the 9th grade in 100 years. Too weak, too weak. How many 4th grade demonic beasts did he kill? Are you joking? Is he here to show off? My father started killing people when he was 15. In order to prove his Tao, he once wandered half of the Divine Grace mainland alone. My father and Uncle Xiao Hei charged into the divine world with the Slaughter God Blade to save the Flame Dragon continent. There were too many legendary stories about Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei, causing his daughters and Demon Devourer to have too high expectations of their partners. As a result, they still hadn't found their ideal husband. Yi Qinghan and Yu Qingsheng, who was the matriarch, didn't care about their children's marriages. It didn't matter if they were born or talented. As long as they liked each other, it was fine. In the current divine world, whoever married this group of proud daughters of heaven would be climbing up the social ladder. Then, what was the difference between the other party's status and identity? Yao Yao, Uncle Xiao Hei, is about to give a lecture. What do you think he will talk about? Yi Zishi looked at the Demon Devourer, sitting beside her, with a mischievous smile. She covered her mouth and giggled. Her face was full of curiosity. The Demon Devourer pouted and said softly, extremely annoyed, "Who knows? It's not like you don't know that my father likes to fool around. I hope he doesn't make a fool of himself. Otherwise, how am I going to show my face in the holy city in the future?" Stop talking. Uncle Xiao Hei is here. There was a ripple in the sky. A figure suddenly condensed in midair. Yi Zishi quickly shut her mouth. The Demon Devourer quickly looked toward the sky. When she saw Xiao Hei's appearance, she couldn't help but laugh softly. Xiao Hei was dressed in white and carried a black longsword on his back. It was actually more than 2 meters long. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his expression was calm. He was like a sword immortal who had descended. He stood with his side, facing everyone. His gaze was deep and distant as he looked at the green mountains and the sea of clouds in the distance. His temperament was elegant and out of this world. He had the demeanor of an expert. "Greetings, Emperor Xiao Hei." All the guards and geniuses of Flame Dragon City stood up. The men knelt on one knee while the women bowed and saluted in unison. Xiao Hei didn't seem to hear the earth-shaking voices. His expression was unmoved. After a while, he waved his hand and indicated for everyone to get up. When everyone sat cross-legged on the ground again, he sighed faintly. Only then did he sigh faintly. What is a martial artist? What is the Tao? Why do martial artists cultivate? How do they cultivate? Xiao Hei's opening speech was actually 4 questions to himself. Moreover, there was a hint of momentum in his words. It made those who knew Xiao Hei and didn't think much of him put away their mood to watch the show and pondered. After a pause, Xiao Hei's words sounded again. The Tao of martial arts is to defy the heavens and change fate, to break through oneself and pursue the limits, to compete with others, to compete with fate, to compete with the heavens. This is what a martial artist is. What is the Tao? Boss's Tao of Indomitable is to not yield to calamities, to not yield to fate, to not yield to the heavens. Before he comprehended the Tao of Indomitable, he already had an indomitable heart. Because of this indomitable heart, He broke through the cocoon and was reborn again and again in adversity. Because of this indomitable heart, he could create miracles. Because of this indomitable heart, he could lead us to victory again and again. Only then could he become Emperor Han Yi. Why do we cultivate? Not for fame, not for profit, not for beauty and status, but to break fate, challenge ourselves, pursue the limits, and set foot on the peak. How do we cultivate? Since we want to break fate, then we must fight against the heavens and the firmament. Then you must first understand the firmament, understand the laws of heaven and earth, familiarize yourself with it, comprehend it, and then conquer it. This is the Tao of cultivation. With that, the long sword on Xiao Hei's back whistled out and slashed forward. In an instant, a crack that was tens of thousands of meters long was cut open in the sky. The heaven and earth Yuan Qi also became chaotic. The scene was vast and extremely shocking. The crowd was in an uproar. Xiao Hei's words moved everyone. Coupled with this shocking sword, countless people felt their blood boil and sighed endlessly. Well said. At this moment, a loud and clear voice sounded. Two figures suddenly appeared in the sky, a man and a woman. The man was dressed in a green robe and had a gentle smile on his face. He glanced at Xiao Hei, then smiled at the hundreds of thousands of geniuses and elites below and said, "Fighting with others is endless joy. Fighting with the heavens is endless joy. All martial artists must conquer this firmament and this sea of stars as their goal. Only then can they defy the heavens and change their fate and tear apart the firmament." Chapter 1375. Boss, how was my lecture just now? On the rooftop of the fiery dragon city, Xiao Hei had a cheeky smile on his face as he looked at Yi Qinghan eagerly, waiting for his praise. Yi Qinghan smiled appreciatively and said, Not bad. Although there is no substantial content, your understanding of the essence of martial arts is not bad. The direction of cultivation is also very accurate. Moreover, it is very motivating. I reckon that those talented youths in the holy city will not be able to sleep well these few days. Yao Ji also covered her mouth and laughed. Emperor Xiao Hei, you were so awe-inspiring and domineering just now. Don't tell me you were trying to fool the beautiful girls inside? Really awe-inspiring? Domineering? Xiao Hei shook her hair coquettishly when she heard the first half of the sentence. But when she heard the second half of the sentence, her expression changed immediately. She rolled her eyes and said, Sister-in-law Yao Ji, am I, Xiao Hei, so unbearable in your eyes? I have been out for a few years, and I have not harmed a single good girl. Ha! Yi Qing'an laughed and asked curiously, Xiao Hei, why did you stop playing after a few years? Not fun? Haven't you always dreamed of picking up a lot of girls? So I don't talk about it. Xiao Hei's expression changed. She frowned and said, those girls are so snobbish. If I don't show my identity and strength, they won't even look at me. When I show my strength and take out a lot of treasures, they stick to me like honey. They don't like me. It's boring, very boring. Shui is the best. She tolerates my unreasonable behavior and treats me sincerely. I can't let her down anymore. Yi Qinghan looked at Xiao Hei dotingly and patted her shoulder. He said happily, Xiao Hei, you have finally grown up. Xiao Hei grinned and said, let's not talk about this. By the way, boss, why did you come out so soon? I remember I have only been back for 2 years. Didn't you go into seclusion? Of course, I'm in seclusion. Yi Qinghan and Yao Ji looked at each other, smiled, and said, not only did I go into seclusion, I also comprehended all 4 fundamental mysteries of the earth element. What? Are you kidding me? Although Xiao Hei's comprehension of laws was poor, it did not mean that he did not understand laws. How could they not understand when they were surrounded by top-notch powerhouses? He had only been in seclusion for 2 years, and he had already comprehended 4 basic mysteries to the large success stage. If Yi Qinghan hadn't said this, Xiao Hei would have slapped him to wake him up. Seeing that Yi Qinghan nodded affirmatively, Xiao Hei's mouth opened wider and wider, so wide that he could swallow an egg. He could not calm down for a long time. Let's talk on the way. Let's go to the Nifa's Abyss and devour those 3 ninth-grade supreme martial artists first. You'll be a disaster if you keep them around. You need a lot of energy, too. Yi Qinghan stood up indifferently. When he came out of seclusion, he exchanged a glance with Yao Ji, and both of them laughed. They were no longer as shocked as before. Since it had already come to this, they might as well give up. Yao Ji took Yi Qinghan and flew toward the Nifa's Abyss. Xiaohei scratched his head and followed in a daze. He seemed to be wondering how Yi Qinghan did it. "Big uncle, father, where are you going?" Before they flew too far, 2 beautiful figures flew over from afar. They were the Demon Devourer and Yi Zishi. The Demon Devourer called out from afar, "It's Yao Yao and Zishi. We're going to the Nifa's Abyss. You two go back to Seal God Valley." Yao Ji immediately stopped. Yi Qinghan turned and smiled at the two. The Demon Devourer flew over and pulled Yi Qinghan's hand. Her delicate face was full of grievance as she said coquettishly, "Nifa's Abyss? We're going together? Uncle, I'm not here anymore. Mother doesn't take me out to play, and father only cares about himself. Uncle, can you take us out to play?" Xiaohei glared at her, but he didn't dare to say anything. This precious daughter of his was giving him a headache. When Yi Qinghan saw that Yi Zishi was also in high spirits, he nodded and said, "All right, follow me. Yao Ji, Xiaohei, don't fly too fast." "All right, thank you, Uncle. Uncle is the best." The Demon Devourer shouted happily. She glared at Xiaohei and Yi Zishi and immediately followed the 3 of them toward the Star Sea. Time wasn't tight. Xiaohei devoured the 3 demon sovereigns without any suspense. The group was relaxed and leisurely as they flew toward the Star Sea. "Greetings, Emperor Xiaohei, Lord Yao Ji, and the 2 ladies." Countless figures flew out of the island before they even reached Supreme Island. All the venerables of Supreme Island came out to greet them. Zhu Yi was at the forefront. She stared at Yi Qinghan with her beautiful eyes. Her eyebrows were full of lust. "Yes, we'll kill the 3 demon sovereigns of Nifa's Abyss. If there's any noise, those controlling the island, don't panic. Zhu Yi, come with us." Yi Qinghan waved his long sleeves and led the group toward the teleportation array. With a flash of white light, they entered Nifa's Abyss again. There were still countless geniuses studying restrictions below. Zhu Yi immediately transmitted a few words to the lower 9th-grade martial artists of the Fire God race who were guarding the place. Everyone below was immediately brought out. "Zhu Yi, protect them. Yao Ji, activate the restriction." Yi Qinghan asked Zhu Yi to bring the Demon Devourer and Yi Zishi to watch the battle from afar, while he flew toward the depths of Nifa's Abyss with Xiaohei. "Break!" Yao Ji flew rapidly in the air. Her hands constantly shot out rays of divine power and hit the walls on both sides. Instantly, the restrictions in the entire Nifa's Abyss lit up. Colorful lights shone, and white mist surrounded them. It was incomparably beautiful. "Wow! Father and Uncle are going to kill 3 demon sovereigns? And Zhu Yi. Will it be dangerous?" The Demon Devourer was overwhelmed with emotions. She asked nervously. Yi Zishi, who was beside her, also grabbed the hem of her dress nervously and looked over. "What hasn't your father and the Emperor seen before?" Zhu Yi looked at the green silhouette in the distance with an intoxicated expression. She smiled sweetly and said, "Back in the planar battlefield, the Emperor single-handedly fought against 5 9th-grade Supremes and dozens of 9th-grade Supremes. In the end, he won and even saved the Beast God. Your father single-handedly annihilated an army of millions of Cyclops and devoured 5 9th-grade Supremes and over 100 9th-grade monsters. There are only 3 9th-grade Supremes here, and they're all demon sovereigns restrained by your father. Do you think it'll be dangerous?" Uncle and father are so powerful." Yao Yao stuck out her tongue and made a cute face. She said with a firm gaze, "Yao Yao has to cultivate hard in the future and become as powerful as father and uncle. In the future, she will lead our army and sweep across the planar battlefield." Yi Zishi also clenched her small fist tightly. Her eyes were filled with excitement. The battle in the distance had already begun, as Yao Ji shot out rays of divine power. The restrictions in the Nephi's abyss lit up more and more. The aura inside also became more and more stifling. Hiss hiss. Finally, all the restrictions lit up. Terrifying howls that made one's heart stop beating could be heard. An abnormally evil and cold aura immediately enveloped the entire Nephi's abyss. Ah! Yi Zixie's strength was the lowest. She was so frightened that she screamed. Her face turned incomparably pale as she retreated in fear. Don't be afraid. Zhu Yi immediately released her aura and enveloped Yi Zixie and the demon devourer. Their faces regained their composure. In the distance, 3 wisps of black mist emerged from the boiling magma, and the sinister and cold aura became even more intense. Dark clouds covered the sky and earth in the Nephi's abyss, and 3 bone-chilling voices rang out wildly. Ha ha! I've finally come out. I've come out. Evil God realm. I'll kill you all, and leave not even a single blade of grass alive. Kill, kill, kill. Kill them all, and turn them into the lowest level of demons. Their souls shall fall into the Azura Sea forever. Chapter 1376. Ah, you want the divine world to become the demon world? Don't worry, after some time, this young master will turn your demon world into a subsidiary plane of the divine world. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning as he stood calmly in midair. Yao Ji stood beside him, and Xiaohe looked at the 3 demon supremes in the black fog with a mocking expression. With just you? You want the sacred world to become a subsidiary plane of the divine world? Dream on. It wasn't our demon world descendants who broke the restriction. It was you guys. Big brother, that green-robed and white-robed human are very strong. Your saber is still in the hands of that green-robed human. The voices of the 3 demon supremes came from the black fog. They finally realized that something was wrong. After being suppressed for more than 1,000,000 years, they had thought that the descendants of the demon realm had attacked and come to rescue them. They had never thought that aside from the 3 humans and the 3 little girls in the distance, there would not be a single creature from the demon realm. Ha! Xiaohe finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. He sneered and said, "You fools, after being imprisoned for 1,000,000 years, have you become stupid? This great emperor went to your demon world and swept through hundreds of material planes. After coming back, I swallowed your demon army cleanly, and there was even a 9th-grade supremacy. In the planar war not long ago, all the powerhouses of your demon world died in my hands. Today it's your turn. If we didn't want to kill you, do you think we would let you out?" As soon as Xiaohe's words fell, the 3 demon supremes' expressions changed. Although they didn't believe it, the truth was in front of them. The demon supremes on the left roared angrily. The black fog around him quickly retracted into his body, turning into a black dragon tens of thousands of meters long. He shouted, "Second brother, third brother, don't listen to their nonsense. Kill them. Then we'll go and demonize all the lives in the divine world. Let them fall into the Azura Sea. Kill, kill, kill." The 2 demon supremes immediately retracted the black fog around them and turned into 2 black dragons. Their auras became even more terrifying. Even Yao Ji, who had the strength of a supremacy, couldn't resist. "Xiaohe, I'll leave it to you. I'll hold the line for you." Yi Qinghan's cold energy surged, suppressing the auras of the 3 demons. He brought Yao Ji and flew backward, not even sparing a glance at the 3 roaring black dragons. "He, boss. Watch me." Xiaohe grinned. Instead of retreating, he advanced and shot forward. In midair, he transformed into a blue dragon that was hundreds of thousands of meters long. He did not roar as he flew forward lazily. His huge dragon tail swatted at the black dragon at the front. "Wow, Father, you're amazing." In the distance, the demon devourer shouted, her face flushed with excitement. She knew that Xiaohe was very powerful, but she had never seen him in action. Every time they encountered danger, the younger generation would be protected by Yi Qinghan's men. At this moment, Xiao Hei's attack was so powerful that he could fight against 3 demon supremes. Even with Zhu Yi's protection, that terrifying aura made her feel as if a mountain was pressing down on her. It made her blood boil. Heavens, is this a battle between 9th grade supremes? Yi Zishi patted her chest and stuck out her tongue. Her face was full of shock. In her world, a battle between 7th grade war gods was already earth-shattering. However, compared to the battle before her, it was like a fight between 2 wild dogs. You 2 girls still have too little combat experience. In the future, I'll ask Uncle Lei Jin to arrange for you to go out and gain experience. Yi Qinghan stood at the side with a smile. He was not worried at all about the battle. Xiao Hei could easily kill the 5 kings of the one-eyed monsters, not to mention the demon supremes that Xiao Hei was the nemesis of. As expected, the battle was one-sided. What a joke! Xiao Hei's strength surpassed that of a 9th grade supreme being. Not to mention their strength, their bodies were far inferior. A black dragon was only tens of thousands of meters long, while the blue dragon that Xiao Hei had transformed into was hundreds of thousands of meters long. The 3 black dragons and the blue dragon were entangled. The 3 black dragons constantly bit, slashed, and swept. However, whenever they attacked Xiao Hei's body, that part of Xiao Hei's body would immediately become transparent and unscathed. The areas that were not attacked would still emit a green light that continuously corroded and devoured the demonic aura. This kind of battle was somewhat dull, but it was extremely easy. Gradually, the black light on the 3 black dragons dimmed, while the green light on Xiao Hei's body became even brighter. Even a blind man could see the outcome of the battle. Hiss! The 3 demon supreme beings finally panicked and began to escape. One flew into the sky, one dove into the ground, and one charged into the magma. However, Xiao Hei was like a piece of dog-tea plaster, sticking to the 3 black dragons and tumbling around in the Nepha's abyss. The restriction shone with a rainbow divine light. The boiling magma splattered everywhere, green smoke rose, and black fog drifted in the air. The 4 giant dragons tumbled in and out of the magma. The demon devourer and Yi Zishi didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Even the temptress had a face full of sorrow. Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi, on the other hand, had seen many big scenes and didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, they pointed at it as if they were watching a show. Hiss! The 3 black dragons flew out of the magma again. The boiling magma soared into the sky and scattered in the air, turning into small red flowers that slowly fell down. The eyes of the 3 black dragons were filled with despair. There was no path into Nepha's abyss, only a teleportation array. However, activating the teleportation array required time. Before they could teleport out, they would be devoured by Xiao Hei. The cold eyes of the 3 black dragons couldn't help but burn with anger when they saw Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi still gossiping in the distance. When the 3 black dragons' gazes met, 2 of them immediately split up and flew toward the teleportation array in the planar battlefield, while the last one charged toward Yi Qinghan. The blue dragon that Xiao Hei had transformed into laughed twice and chased after the 2 black dragons. As for the black dragon that was charging toward Yi Qinghan, he didn't even spare it a glance. That black dragon is coming! Yi Zishi and the demon devourer were so scared that their souls were about to split apart. They hurriedly retreated a few steps and saw Yi Qinghan leisurely charging forward. The temptress and Zhu Yi didn't move, so they were slightly relieved. However, they still stared at him with incomparable fear. Scram! Yi Qinghan had a leisurely expression on his face. He didn't condense the God-Slayer spear. Instead, he simply sent out a palm strike. A large, white, and slender palm silently appeared from the void. It carried with it an aura that could destroy heaven and earth, and it smashed toward the black dragon's head. The supreme demon had a very powerful ability. It could make its body illusory, and the enemy couldn't attack it. However, under the envelopment of the cold energy, the supreme demon couldn't even move. It could only watch as the slender palm smashed toward it. After that, the entire black dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long flew back like a rubber ball. The speed was so fast that it could actually chase up to Xiao He. No, no, SSS. Damn it, damn it. The roars of the three black dragons became weaker and weaker. The bodies of the two weaker supreme demons had already started to fade, and they were about to disappear from this world forever. The strongest supreme demon wasn't any better. It was struggling with all its might and struggling at death's door. Xiao He, leave the leader of the supreme demon behind. I still want to ask him about the slaughter god blade. When Yi Qinghan saw that the situation was about right, he spoke. He had always felt that the slaughter god blade wasn't so simple. Since it was a paragon's spiritual treasure, how could it be so simple? Chapter 1377. Kill me. Don't even think of trying to pry any information about the holy realm out of my mouth. Hateful humans, there will come a day when your divine realm will be enslaved by our holy realm. The people of our holy realm will exterminate all of you humans and turn you into the lowest level creatures of the demon realm, your souls forever sinking into the azure sea. Beneath the nefarious abyss, the boss of the three abyssal sovereigns angrily roared. His body had already become incomparably weak and was on the verge of death. He didn't even have the strength to escape. As for the other two abyssal sovereigns, they had already become energy within Xiao He's body and had been swallowed. Xiao He, let him have some fun first. Yi Qinghan glanced at the brainless abyssal sovereign. The power of cold surged and enveloped the demon devourer and Yi Zishi, isolating them from the outside world. Xiao He grinned. He turned into a cool breeze that enveloped the abyssal sovereign. However, he didn't swallow it with all his might. He only slowly corroded it. This method wouldn't kill the abyssal sovereign for a short period of time. Rather, his entire body would feel incomparably uncomfortable. Hateful humans. Hateful, hateful. As expected, the dying abyssal sovereign began to writhe in pain, emitting blood-curdling howls of pain. This feeling was like being executed by 1,000 cuts. Every cut of flesh was extremely painful. After a long time, Yi Qinghan sent a sound transmission to Xiao He to stop. He withdrew the power of cold and flew towards the abyssal sovereign with the help of Yao Ji. Wow! So, this is the true form of the abyssal sovereign. How terrifying! How disgusting! That's right. This is the most terrifying monster Zishi has ever seen. After Yi Qinghan left, the demon devourer and Yi Zishi finally dared to speak in a soft voice. The two of them looked at the skies in horror. This abyssal sovereign was covered in black scales, had an ugly face, and had blood-red eyes. They couldn't help but sigh. Zhu Yi looked at the two of them, who were making a fuss about nothing. She glanced at Yi Qinghan's back and said meaningfully, what is this? There are even more terrifying monsters in the planar battlefield. You proud daughters of heaven, when your father and Grand Emperor Xiao He ventured into the god realm, they didn't stay long in the Firewar tribe before they were framed and sent to baleful Een Stream. The Een Fiend Stream is a concentration camp of fiends. At that time, your father and Great Emperor Xiao He were only at the heavenly god realm. You'll never understand how much pain your father has suffered. Father, when the demon devourer and Yi Zishi heard this, they were indeed deeply moved. Their gazes locked onto the backs of Yi Qinghan and Xiao He as they let out a deep sigh. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Xiao He's silhouettes had become unprecedentedly lofty in the eyes of the two proud women. How is it? Does it feel good? Your energy is slowly recovering, right? Why don't I get Xiao He to wait for you to recover and continue to attack? We have all the time in the world to slowly play with you. Yi Qinghan stood in front of the demon sovereign and stared at his blood-red eyes without the slightest bit of fear. Kill me. Even if I die, I will not divulge any information about the holy world. The supreme demon opened his mouth and revealed a mouthful of green fangs. The red glow in his eyes was incomparably resolute. Kiki. Yi Qinghan laughed and drew out the slaughter god blade from his back. Do you recognize this blade? This was your weapon in the past. I don't need you to tell me anything about the fiend world. As long as you give me the information about this blade, I will give you a quick death. The supreme demon stared at the supreme slaughter god blade, and his eyes suddenly lit up. However, he gritted his teeth and refused to say a single word. Yi Qinghan was very patient as he accompanied the supreme demon to waste time. Xiaohe also stood at the side with interest as he watched how long the supreme demon could last. 1 hour later, the supreme demon's body regained a trace of light. Yi Qinghan waved his hand at Xiaohe and said, Xiaohe, this friend from the fiend world seems to be very stubborn. You should soften him up a little. Xiaohe laughed coldly as he turned into a ghostly wind and enveloped the supreme demon. He wanted to corrode the supreme demon again. As expected, the supreme demon was afraid. If he stretched his head out, he would be slashed. If he shrank his head, he would still be slashed. Today he was definitely going to die. Since they did not want to ask about the fiend world, and the slaughter god blade was already in someone else's hands, there was no need to say anything. He gritted his teeth and said, Go ahead and ask. Yi Qinghan grinned and said, This slaughter god blade is from your fiend dimension. Was it obtained from the hands of a supreme god emperor? Has your dimension obtained first place in the dimensional war 3 times? The supreme demon shook his head and said, No. It is rare for the fiend dimension to obtain first place in the dimensional war. This was obtained by a powerful ancestral devil from an expert from another dimension. Yi Qinghan nodded with an expression of as expected. He then asked, This is a supreme spiritual treasure, right? Yes. Then why do I feel that it does not have the power of a paragon spiritual treasure? Other than being able to deal with the fiend world creatures, this blade has no other use. It is not even comparable to a transcendent grade divine weapon. If not for the fact that the slaughter god blade's carvings and materials were exactly the same as a paragon spiritual treasure, it would not have been possible for the slaughter god blade to be a paragon spiritual treasure. Yi Qinghan would never have thought that the slaughter god blade was a paragon spiritual treasure. This was because other than being able to suppress the fiend world creatures and the spirit that was born from it, this blade had no other use. The supreme demon fell silent for a moment and looked at Xiaohe, who was glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey. He said helplessly, Because this blade was refined by the ancestor using the blood essence of the fiend world and a supreme secret technique. Those who are not from the holy realm cannot use its power. Yi Qinghan nodded. No wonder the people from the divine realm could not use it in the past. If it was not for his special soul, he would not be able to use it either. However, because of this blade, he had completely turned into a monster. Thinking back, without this blade, the cold realm would not have appeared in his mind. Blessings and misfortunes are accompanied by blessings, and misfortunes are accompanied by blessings. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. After pondering for a moment, Yi Qinghan asked again, Is there any way for me to use this blade to unleash the power of a paragon spiritual treasure? There is no way. The supreme demon shook his head and said, This blade actually did not look like this originally. Furthermore, there is a terrifying beast soul in the blade. The ancestor could not control this soul and could only refine it by force. Furthermore, it has been modified into its current form. Other than the fiend world creatures, no one can unleash the power of this blade. What did it look like originally? Yi Qinghan sighed in disappointment. The slaughter god blade had followed him through many battles for many years, and he had a deep feeling for it. Now, it had become useless. Xiaohe had also transformed and did not need to stay inside. This blade was even more useless now. It seemed like it could only be kept as a souvenir. A trace of reminiscence flashed in the supreme demon's eyes as he said, It looked like the blade of an axe, but there was no handle. Back then, the ancestor was also very curious. He said that this paragon spiritual treasure was incomplete, but it had the power of a normal paragon spiritual treasure. If the handle of the axe was found, wouldn't it become a weapon that was even more powerful than a paragon spiritual treasure? However, after many years of battles, the ancestor still could not find the handle of the axe. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. Oh, you are not lying to me? Yi Qinghan's interest was piqued. If the supreme demon was not lying, then did this slaughter god blade have a very powerful origin? There was a treasure that was even more powerful than a paragon spiritual treasure? Was it possible? Chapter 1378. That supreme demon is not lying to me, right? Why is the slaughter god's saber an axe blade? There's no axe handle? That mutated beast soul already had the power of a paragon spiritual treasure before it was refined? If I have the axe handle, wouldn't it be several times more powerful than a paragon spiritual treasure? On the Flame Dragon City's balcony, Yi Qinghan held the slaughter god's saber in his left hand and the black flag in his right hand. No matter how Xiao He tried, the supreme demon only revealed this information. In the end, when Yi Qinghan saw that he could not get any more information, he asked Xiao He to give him a quick death and brought everyone back to Flame Dragon City. The black flag was the paragon's spiritual treasure that Yi Qinghan obtained after killing the snake-headed half-beast man. The blood-refined spear was given to Zhu Yi. This black flag was a support-type paragon spiritual treasure. It had a very magical ability, trapping people, since it could even trap a grade 9 supreme being. Yi Qinghan naturally kept it for himself. Yi Qinghan carefully used his divine senses to examine the black flag and the slaughter god saber. He wanted to find out more about these two paragon spiritual treasures. He wanted to see if he could refine the slaughter god saber and restore it to its original state and restore the power of a paragon spiritual treasure. The supreme demon could make the slaughter god saber unleash its power, but did not know how to refine it. Yi Qinghan could only try to figure it out by himself. The two paragon spiritual treasures were made of the same material, patterns, and structure. The only difference was that there were some restrictions that Yi Qinghan did not understand in the black flag. These restrictions were spread all over the black flag, forming a cycle. This slaughter god saber is indeed damaged. The restrictions inside are obviously not complete. It seems like the supreme demon was not lying. Yi Qinghan observed for a long time and discovered the difference. After a moment, he extended his divine senses and locked onto the Wind Moon Monarch in the north. He sent a voice transmission, "Come to Flame Dragon City to take a look." The Wind Moon Monarch received the order and came very quickly. He teleported over in 2 hours. This saber was refined by the Demon Sovereign. Do you have any way to restore it to its original state? Wind Moon Monarch respectfully received the blade from Yi Qinghan. He checked it with his divine sense and asked, "Great Emperor, I can't guarantee anything. I can only try." "It's okay. Let's restore it if we can." "All right." This slaughter god saber's original appearance was that of an axe's blade. Don't destroy the restriction veins inside. After Yi Qinghan gave some instructions, the Wind Moon Monarch left with the slaughtered god blade. Yi Qinghan put away the black flag and entered the sealed god valley. He saw Xiao He bragging to a group of juniors about the battle against the 3 demon sovereigns in the Nepha's abyss. Yi Qinghan waved his hand to stop the junior from saluting. He turned to Xiao He and asked, "Xiao He, do you want to wait until the 100 years are up before going to the demon world, or do you want to go after a while? You devoured 3 fiend autarchs, as well as many experts in the planar battlefield. Did your body change at all?" "No. Even if I can evolve, I don't know how much energy it will take. I don't know if I can succeed, even if I devoured close to 109th grade Supremes." Xiao He sighed helplessly. "Boss, are you going into seclusion? If you don't want to go into seclusion, then go immediately. The sooner we destroy the demon plane, the sooner we can be at ease. Otherwise, it will be uncomfortable to worry about one thing. Also, the demon plane has suffered heavy losses. Will there be any sudden changes if we destroy them now?" "I see." Yi Qinghan thought for a while and nodded. "I'm not in a hurry to go into seclusion. Cultivation is not something that can be achieved in a short period of time. How about this? I will ask Uncle Lei Zhen to make arrangements. Once it is done, we will go to the demon world." "Uncle, uncle!" The demon devourer immediately stood up, grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm and shook it, acting coquettishly. You want to go and play again? Yi Qinghan's gaze swept across and found that all his children's eyes were shining. How could he not know what they were thinking? The demon devourer raised her little fist and said excitedly, Yes. Yao Yao wants to go and gain experience. Yao Yao wants to be a female general. You guys attack the big planes, and Yao Yao will bring people to attack the material planes, right? Yao Yao's strength has reached the level of a 5th-grade war god. Uncle, didn't you say that one can never grow up without experiencing wind and rain? Huh? Yi Qing'an laughed. He looked at the helpless Xiao He and rubbed Yao Yao's head. Okay, we won't go through the dimensional battlefield this time. We will go to the Beast God Hall in the Soul Emperor Pavilion. All of you will go, and bring your mother too. Now let's go back and cultivate. The preparation work will take at least a year or two. When the time comes, let's go together. I knew that uncle is the best. Yao Yao jumped up happily and winked at Yi Qinghan's children. Her proud expression was incomparably obvious. Yi Qinghan's children also revealed expressions of ecstasy. This was not going to the material plane of the divine realm. This was going to conquer another plane, a plane of demons that was as big as the divine realm. Just thinking about it made them excited. Yi Qinghan immediately brought Xiao He to the flame dragon sacred city and found Lei Jin. Yi Qinghan explained the purpose of his visit. Lei Jin said with some surprise, Huh? You are going to conquer the demon plane immediately. I thought there was still a lot of time. I haven't made any preparations yet. Yi Qinghan said very casually, It's fine. Let's start preparing now. It won't take much time, right? We will go to the Beast God Hall in the Soul Emperor Pavilion. If we fly at full speed, we will arrive in 10 or 20 years. I estimate that it won't take more than 10 years to occupy the entire demon plane. That's easy for you to say. Lei Jin smiled bitterly. He had always been the one to arrange the preparations for every war. Yi Qinghan never asked about it, so he didn't know the complexity of it. He said, It's easy for you to go to war, but who do you need to arrange? Who do you need to stay in the divine realm? After conquering the demon plane, you need to arrange for immigrants to migrate there, right? Otherwise, there will be no humans living in the demon plane. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth will slowly dissipate, and finally, it will become a dead plain, a barren land. If you want to migrate, it will be complicated. You need to build a transfer array. With such a long distance, you need to build a transfer array. You need a lot of materials. The immigrants will need to be sent to different races, and you need to arrange for experts to be stationed there. Also, Yi Qinghan felt a headache after hearing this. He quickly waved his hand and said, Okay. Uncle Lei Jin, you can arrange these. You just need to tell me what I want to do. How much time will I need? Lei Jin laughed. He knew that with Yi Qinghan's personality, he wouldn't even frown if he was asked to lead the charge. He would definitely be annoyed to death if he was asked to do all these complicated things. He said, I will arrange these things. As for the time, it will take at least 5 years. You need to confirm the people who will participate in the war. People? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. After a while, he said, I will go with Xiao He, Zhu Yi, and Wind Moon Monarch. This time, I will bring Hua Yin, Shui Air, and Zi Shi. Let them relax, and let the younger generation gain some experience. There are no experts in the demon plane. We don't need to be afraid even if there are. We have won the plane war. The experts from other planes don't have the right to attack us. Beast God Yi Feihu is enough. As for the low-level warriors, you just wait and see. Wait. Yi Qinghan suddenly thought of the ice beauty in the northern ice island. He hesitated for a while and said, Add the ice queen. Her ice attacks are still useful. They are useful for warming the bed. Lei Jin laughed. How was Yi Qinghan going to conquer the other planes? He was bringing a group of women. Wasn't it obvious that he was bringing the women and children to go sightseeing? Of course, Lei Jin wouldn't point it out. Anyway, with Yi Qinghan and Xiao He, there was no suspense in conquering the demon plane. The two of them discussed for a while more. Lei Jin immediately went out to make arrangements. As the flame dragon sacred city gave out orders, the divine world was in an uproar. The two great emperors were preparing to conquer the demon plane. They wanted to wipe out the demon race that had invaded the divine world for millions of years and almost caused the divine world to be destroyed. This news spread throughout the divine world. The warriors of the divine world were all excited. They gathered at the sacred city and requested to follow the great emperors to war. Chapter 1379. During these 5 years, Yi Qinghan decided to go into seclusion again to continue comprehending the earth occult. Leading Yao Ji into the War Imperial Palace, Yi Qinghan stood in front of a stone tablet. His eyes glowed as he immersed himself in the world inside the stone tablet. Little Han didn't comprehend the elementary occult, nor did he comprehend the intermediate occult, but directly comprehended the advanced occult. Although Yao Ji didn't comprehend any occult, she was very clear about the occult stone tablets in the palace. The stone stele in front of Yi Qinghan contained the high-grade earth attribute profound mystery, earth roar. After comprehending it, it could cause mountains to crumble and rocks to split apart. It was a profound mystery that was used to attack groups of people. However, it was useless against Yi Qinghan. To fuse the occult, one would usually fuse the elementary occult first, then the intermediate occult, and finally the advanced occult. If one directly fused the advanced occult, the difficulty would be doubled. Yi Qinghan used to like this, but now that he had reached the 9th level, wouldn't it be even more difficult to comprehend the occult like this? Above the 9th level, if one didn't encounter a bottleneck, they might not be able to comprehend it even after hundreds of thousands of years. However, Yao Ji's worries were clearly unnecessary. After only 1 year, the light in Yi Qinghan's eyes stopped shining. He walked toward Yao Ji with ease and grinned. "It's done. I've fused the great Emperor Roar. What a freak! Little Han, if I continue cultivating at this speed, do you think I'll comprehend all 9 ultimate occult and become a divine Emperor Supreme?" The Yao Ji lazily lay on her side on the bed. She did not get up, but her eyes lit up with anticipation, causing her originally charming face to look even more alluring. Yi Qinghan climbed onto the bed and sat in front of Yao Ji. Thinking of the torture at the peak of Mount Pan, he felt a great pressure. He smiled bitterly and said, "I think even if I fuse all 9 ultimate occult, I still can't become a divine Emperor Supreme. That's an invincible existence." Yao Ji was clever. Yi Qinghan's current strength surpassed the 9th level, and there was also Xiaohe. However, he still cultivated diligently and worked hard to improve his strength. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything, but the enchantress could guess that it had something to do with the divine emperor. Looking at Yi Qinghan, who was as heavy as a mountain, Yao Ji couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. She stretched out her 2 lily-white hands and wrapped them around Yi Qinghan's neck. Half of her body hugged Yi Qinghan from behind. She could not share Yi Qinghan's burden. She could only rely on herself to give Yi Qinghan a moment of pleasure. 5 years later, Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion on time. This time, even when Xiaohe asked about the progress of his closed-door training, Yi Qinghan casually laughed it off. He exchanged glances with the enchantress, and both of them laughed. In 5 years, Yi Qinghan had not only fused Earth Roar to great success, but he had also fused another high-rank profound mystery to entry level. This cultivation speed could be described as a rocket. Yi Qinghan and the enchantress had a tacit understanding to keep it a secret. Otherwise, if this news were to spread, all the martial artists in the divine realm would be scared to death. Now that Yi Qinghan didn't care about fame, these things should be kept a secret if possible. Xiaohe's big mouth loved to brag and pretend, as if he was afraid that others didn't know how fierce he was. "Is everyone ready? Uncle Lei Jun." Yi Qinghan looked around at the excited women in the hall, as well as the group of children, before turning to Lei Jun and said, "Everyone is ready. Everyone has gathered in Flame Dragon City. All the materials and artifacts have been stored in the Soul Emperor Pavilion by Little You. We're just waiting for you to come out of seclusion," Lei Jun said indifferently. He didn't mention how much effort he had put in for this preparation for the past 5 years. Yi Qinghan liked to be a hands-off boss. In fact, he was the one managing the entire divine realm. This exceptional genius of the Thunder God clan had neglected his cultivation for the sake of the divine realm. However, Yi Qinghan had given him a primal chaos divine crystal. As long as he broke through to upper ninth grade, he could easily reach ninth grade supreme martial artist after refining the primal chaos divine crystal. All right, let's go. The enchantress has wronged you this time. Yi Qinghan turned to smile at the enchantress. The enchantress was a restriction genius. Without her control, the restrictions in Nifa's abyss could not be fully released. Yi Qinghan and Xiao He had gone out. In case an expert from another plane charged in, the enchantress would be safer. The enchantress smiled gently and said, "It's fine. It's just a few decades. It'll pass in the blink of an eye." Follow little you into the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Xiao He, Uncle Leijun, let's go. Yi Qinghan waved his hand. Yu Qingcheng, Xiao He, Yao Gobbler, and the others rushed out excitedly into the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Yi Qingyu's restriction skills had improved greatly. It was easy for her to control the Soul Emperor Pavilion. After teleporting out of the City Lord's mansion, Yi Qinghan, Lei Jun, and Xiao He flew to the plaza. There were already countless people on the plaza. All the sovereigns and prefecture masters, as well as the experts of the divine realm, were here. Behind them were the Yi family army and the army that was participating in the war. There were at least 10 million people. There were hundreds of thousands of material planes in the demonic plane. If Yi Qinghan and Xiao He were to occupy them one by one, it would take a long time. These material planes were similar to the divine realm. There were no experts. If the Yi family army spread out, they could eliminate them in a short time. Greetings, Heavenly Emperor. Greetings, Heavenly Emperor Xiao He. Greetings, City Lord Lei Jun. 10 million people knelt on one knee in unison. They were all wearing black battle armor and had black sabers on their waists. As they knelt down, it was a majestic and shocking scene. This expedition to the demonic plane is different from the ancient expeditions. This time, we must kill all the creatures of the demonic plane to prevent any future troubles. The creatures of the demonic plane reproduce very quickly. The aura of the demonic plane can easily turn a plane into a demonic plane. It is extremely dangerous. Therefore, in this battle, all of you must go all out. The sovereigns and martial artists who are not participating will guard the divine realm. If there is anything, listen to the beast god and Lei Jun. Now, set off. Everyone will enter the Beast God Hall in batches. As Yi Qinghan gave a brief speech, a golden 9-story pagoda floated in from the distance. There was also a simple and unadorned palace. The Beast God had already taught Zhu Yi how to use the Beast God Hall. With Yi Qinghan around, there was no need to worry that Zhu Yi would steal the supreme spirit treasure of the Beast God race. The Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Hall landed on the plaza. According to the plan, the 10 million Divine Realm Legions entered the Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Hall in batches. The parallel spaces within the two treasures were very large. It was easy to hold 10 million people. Little Han, we await your triumphant return. Farewell, Heavenly Emperor Xiao He, and all lords. Under the gazes of the Beast God, Jida, and the others, the Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Hall slowly rose into the sky. Farewell, Heavenly Emperor Xiao He, and all lords. We await your triumphant return. At this time, hundreds of millions of martial artists gathered outside Flame Dragon City. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter Flame Dragon City. These martial artists did not have the qualifications to participate in the battle. They could only stand outside Flame Dragon City, silently witnessing this historic moment. The Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Hall circled in the sky several times. Under the cheers of hundreds of millions of people, they suddenly accelerated and flew high into the sky. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from everyone's sight. From a weak point in space, they flew out of the endless void and rapidly flew towards the demonic plane. Chapter 1380. The boundless void was still as beautiful as ever. The spatial saber currents were like a meteor shower, whistling over and over, never stopping. The space vortex spun rapidly. Countless material planes were like stars in the sky, so beautiful that it could break one's heart. A 9-floored pagoda, glowing with white light and a pitch-black, ancient-looking palace tore through the void and flew over from the other end of the void. They turned into 2 special shooting stars and flew into the distance. The Soul Emperor Pavilion was the Soul Emperor's pinnacle work. It was protected by powerful restrictions and didn't fear the space knife currents. The Beast God Temple was a supreme spirit treasure made of special materials. The space knife currents couldn't damage it at all. These 2 treasures could automatically absorb heaven and earth's spiritual energy to replenish their energy. They were supreme treasures for traveling through the void. The 9th floor of the Soul Emperor Pavilion. The 9th floor was very big. It was divided into a main hall and a dozen side halls. Yi Qinghan arranged for the juniors to stay in the left side hall, while he, Xiaohei, and the others stayed in the right side hall. Each side hall had several rooms. It was easy to live in. The last time he went to the Fiend Plane with Lord Devour and the others, they had spent 20 years. This time, Yi Qinghan had the map of the Divine World and the Fiend World. Flying in a straight line shortened the time, but it still took more than 10 years. Yi Qinghan didn't cultivate. Without Yao Ji, he couldn't enter the 5th level of soul stillness. His comprehension speed was much slower. The War Imperial Hall was a spatial divine artifact. If he entered the War Imperial Hall at a certain spatial coordinate, he would still be at the same spatial coordinate. And the Soul Emperor Pavilion was rapidly flying. So Yi Qinghan couldn't enter the War Imperial Hall to look at the mysterious stone tablets. Without the War Imperial Hall, comprehending was much more troublesome. In any case, this trip wouldn't take several decades, so there was no hurry. At this time, Yi Qinghan was standing on the Soul Emperor Pavilion. With the protection of the restrictions, he didn't need to worry about the space knife currents hurting him as he stood on the top of the Soul Emperor Pavilion. The cold boundary was still evolving. Yi Qinghan often checked and found that the cold boundary's evolution speed was getting faster and faster. It was becoming more and more like plate boundary. Countless spatial whirlpools stood firmly in the cold realm, and the cold realm no longer showed any signs of chaos. At this moment, the entire cold night has become as big as dozens of planes of the God realm. The small planes inside were also expanding rapidly. The largest one had already reached a radius of 10,000 li. The power of cold grew faster and faster. At this moment, it was enough for Yi Qinghan to unleash tens of thousands of attacks. Everything was progressing well. Yi Qinghan finally accepted this fact. He had to accept the fact that the cold realm was an existence similar to plate realm. He also began to seriously think of a way to make the frigid realm perfectly evolve into another plate realm. Thus, at this time, Yi Qinghan stood at the peak of the Soul Emperor Pavilion and began to seriously observe this plate boundary. The cold realm was the source of his power, and the threat of Pan Xing, the supreme being of the Divine Emperor, was like a sharp sword resting on his neck. Thus, Yi Qinghan had no choice but to think of a way to perfectly evolve the cold boundary. And if he wanted the cold realm to evolve perfectly, then he had to understand plate realm. What is considered a perfect derivation? Space forming? The formation of all the planes? The perfection of the laws of the world? The possession of heaven and earth origin energy? The evolution of life? Yi Qinghan didn't blink. According to his understanding of plate realm and his understanding of the various planes, he finally came up with a large number of conclusions. It was just that the world was slowly taking shape, and all the planes were also slowly growing. But how could the laws of the world be perfected? How could they be filled with heaven and earth origin energy? How could they evolve life? Yi Qinghan was confused. His comprehension of the laws of the world wasn't high to begin with, let alone making the cold realm possess the laws of the world. What was he supposed to do with heaven and earth origin energy? Could he steal the origin energy from this plate realm? But he was the only one who could enter the cold realm. Even within the cold realm, he couldn't feel the existence of plate realm. Outside the cold realm, there was nothing but darkness. How could he bring in heaven and earth origin energy from plate realm? Without heaven and earth origin energy, how could it evolve life? Also, plate realm didn't have spatial blade currents or black holes. What was going on with the gray and hazy space within the spatial whirlpool within plate realm? Countless questions swirled in Yi Qinghan's mind. If it weren't for the fact that the cold realm looked exactly like plate realm, and that he himself had condensed countless profound mysteries of space, Yi Qinghan would have suspected that the cold realm was an existence similar to plate realm. Phew! Letting out a long breath, Yi Qinghan's sword-like eyebrows furrowed deeply. The spatial whirlpool within the cold realm was something he had created himself. If he relied on the cold realm to evolve on its own, Yi Qinghan knew that he would never be able to create another plate realm. Most importantly, somehow, Yi Qinghan felt that as long as he could evolve the cold realm, he would have the ability to fight against Pan Xing. Moreover, he felt that sooner or later, he would have to fight against Pan Xing. Therefore, Yi Qinghan was incomparably anxious. He couldn't let the cold realm slowly evolve like this. Otherwise, if he really fought against Pan Xing, no matter how vast the world was except for himself who could escape into the cold realm, no one else would be able to escape. They would all die. I must think of a way to make the cold realm evolve. Yi Qinghan thought of Pan Xing wielding a butcher's knife, slaughtering his wife, son, daughter, his clansmen, people he knew, the billions of people of the god realm, one by one. His expression turned gloomy. Blue veins bulged on his forehead as a murderous aura shot up into the sky. A moment later, Yi Qinghan calmed down and turned into a stone statue. His eyes were as deep as the sea as he continued to observe this world, this vast plate realm. This endless void is so beautiful. I can finally set foot in the legendary endless void. This young lady Yao Yao, will definitely cultivate hard and reach the supremacy realm, grade 9. In the future, I will travel alone in the endless void and watch this beautiful space-shattering knife current. I will feel the loneliness of a lonely traveler. How satisfying that would be. As Yi Qinghan pondered alone at the top of the Soul Emperor Pavilion, the 9th floor of the Soul Emperor Pavilion was incomparably lively. A group of juniors who had never been to the endless void were incomparably excited. Their faces were filled with curiosity as they looked at the beautiful scenery through the transparent walls of the Soul Emperor Pavilion, occasionally letting out exclamations. Yu Qingcheng, Huiyin, Yinling, and the others smiled as they looked at this group of juniors. Their gazes would occasionally glance at the top of the tower. At this moment, they happened to see Yi Qinghan's fierce expression and heavy breathing. Everyone couldn't help but feel their hearts ache, incomparably distressed. Similarly, there were many things that Yi Qinghan didn't tell them, but as people who had slept with him, they had always understood Yi Qinghan's temperament. They knew that he liked to share wealth and joy with his family and friends, but he liked to silently endure everything by himself. When he was injured, he liked to treat his wounds in solitude. After Yi Qinghan returned from the planar battlefield, he appeared to be very happy and accompanied everyone for several years. However, every wife could see that Yi Qinghan always had a heavy heart, especially now. When they saw Yi Qinghan's heavy expression, they understood everything. There were many things they didn't understand, but they knew that in this world, the only thing that could threaten Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe was a divine emperor supremacy. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything, and everyone pretended not to know. They quietly glanced at each other and looked at the group of happy and excited children in front of them. The pain in their eyes disappeared, and their faces revealed smiles like blooming flowers. Yi Qinghan didn't want them to bear the mountain-like pressure together, but they also didn't want a group of juniors to see anything and bear the burden together. The pitiful hearts of the world's parents. As children, they might never understand. Only when they became parents would they understand. Life was as lonely as snow. Chapter 1381. It said on Earth that the universe began with the Big Bang. Although I'm not sure if Plate Realm was born from the Big Bang, it's not clear if it evolved after that. But the Cold Realm was indeed derived from the Big Bang. In that case, was Earth a material plane or not? If only I were the supreme God Emperor. Maybe I could look for Earth. If there's a place similar to the Divine Realm, maybe even the Milky Way plane. 10 years. Yi Qinghan had already stood at the top of the Soul Emperor Pavilion for a full 10 years. He had been looking at this beautiful and endless void for 10 years, but he still hadn't gained anything. How did the Cold Realm perfectly materialize? How did the Cold Realm produce the spatial saber flow, the spatial black hole, and the spiritual chi of the world? How to create the laws of heaven and earth? How to produce heaven and earth spiritual chi, and countless other questions. Yi Qinghan could not figure out a single one. He also knew that these things couldn't be figured out in 10 or 20 years. Although his heart was anxious, it wasn't to the point of going crazy. However, the aura on his body was getting heavier. The demonic plane was not far away. They had passed the barren land and were about to reach the periphery of the demonic plane. Yi Qinghan sighed and prepared to enter the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Xiao Yu, teleport me to the West Liang Palace. I'm going into seclusion. Yi Qinghan forced a smile on his face. He turned his head and transmitted a message to the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Of course, he wasn't going to go into seclusion. It was just that he knew that his breathing was heavy and his mind was preoccupied. It was very easy for Yu Qingcheng and the others to see through him. Therefore, he was prepared to calm himself down before going to meet the girls. West Cool Palace was a side palace. Of the 9 side palaces of the Soul Emperor Pavilion, this was the only one that wasn't occupied. Yi Qinghan had previously told him that this side palace would be used for his seclusion. Brother, go ahead. Don't take too long. We'll reach the demonic plane in a year or 2. Yi Qingyu transmitted a message and used a restriction to teleport Yi Qinghan in. The group of women thought that Yi Qinghan had comprehended something after comprehending for 10 years and was about to go into seclusion to cultivate. None of them paid it any mind. Instead, they relaxed slightly. Cultivation could always help him forget some unhappiness and reduce some pressure, right? Sitting in the Western Liang Palace, Yi Qinghan was a little dumbfounded. His heart was as heavy as a mountain. He didn't want to cultivate. He was alone and didn't know what to do. Since he said he was going into seclusion, he was too embarrassed to go out right now. He could only take out some fine wine and spirit fruits from the War Emperor Palace and drink alone. If only Zhu Yi was here, I wouldn't have to hide anything in front of her, and I could be relaxed. Sigh. Draw a knife to cut water, and the water will continue to flow. Drink a cup to drown your worries, and you will become even more worried. The more Yi Qinghan drank, the more worried he became. He couldn't help but think of his friend with benefits, Zhu Yi. Yu Qingcheng, Fireworks, and the others were the people that Yi Qinghan loved the most. He didn't want them to bear the pressure together. This didn't mean that he didn't love Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi's intelligence was like a demon's. It was almost impossible to hide anything from her. Yi Qinghan didn't need to hide anything from her. He felt like she was his confidant. He felt really comfortable and relaxed. Zhu Yi was controlling the Beast God Hall to fly. Yi Qinghan was too embarrassed to find her. Apart from his wife Xiaohe, Li Shui, or a bunch of juniors, there was only Wind Moon Monarch and Ice Queen. Yi Qinghan was a little regretful that he didn't bring Jidir out. It was such a boring journey. If he had someone to chat with, he wouldn't have to drink alone. Emperor, Bing Mei, or seeks an audience. Just as Yi Qinghan was drunk, a cold voice rang in his ear. Inside the Western Liang Palace, Yi Qinghan did not open the restrictions inside. The people in the nearby halls could easily detect Yi Qinghan's presence with their spiritual senses. Bing Mei? Which Bing Mei? Yi Qinghan shook his head and muttered. An ice-like body appeared in his mind. He spread his spiritual sense out and noticed that Ice Queen was standing calmly outside. Her ice-like face was so beautiful that no one dared to blaspheme her. Come in, right? Open the restrictions in the hall. Ice Queen knew that he was here. Only then did Yi Qinghan remember that he didn't open the restrictions in the room. If Fireworks and the others looked in, wouldn't they notice right away? Open the restrictions? Ice Queen just walked in and heard those words. Her ice-cold face immediately turned red, and her ice-cold eyes were filled with shyness. Emperor, you didn't open the restrictions when you were alone. Now that you are alone with me, you want me to open the restrictions. What? What do you want? Looking at how Yi Qinghan drank alone like nothing had happened, Ice Queen didn't know what Yi Qinghan was planning. However, due to Yi Qinghan's aura, Ice Queen hesitated and casually opened the restrictions in the hall to cut off the outside from looking in. Sit! As he had seen Ice Queen naked in the past, Yi Qinghan relied on the fact that he was drunk so he didn't feel so restrained. He pointed at the chair opposite for Ice Queen to sit down. He casually picked up a cup and poured some wine for her. He looked at her with a burning gaze and teased. Bing Mei, is that your name? It doesn't match your aura. Or rather, you hid your true nature? You were originally very charming? Huh? Ice Queen's face turned red. She couldn't find any words to retort. She picked up the wine cup and saw a light lip mark on it. Her face turned even redder. She raised her head and glanced at Yi Qinghan. When she saw those burning eyes, her body turned hot and she started to feel uneasy. During these few years, Yi Qinghan's strong rise caused her impression of him to change. He went from a top genius to an expert of the same level. He then became a grade 9 existence that she looked up to, a god-world emperor. The women of the immortal realm had no concept of age when it came to their spouses. This was because the lifespan of a mortal realm martial artist was simply too long. A man who had lived for millions of years marrying a young girl who was only 17 or 18 years old, and a man who was several hundred years old marrying a woman who was tens of thousands of years old. In God world, the strong were respected. It was natural for the weak to rely on the strong. This was why it was normal for Jida to have a harem of 3,000. It was normal for a female expert to have tens of thousands. Yi Qinghan's legendary experience, the calm aura he had after going through so much, and also the majestic aura he had when he was in a high position. Most importantly, he was infatuated with his wives. It gave him a special charm, a charm that women couldn't resist. If Yi Qinghan announced that he was searching for wives in God world, the moment the news spread out, millions of beauties would rush to Flame Dragon City. So, it was normal for Ice Queen, who often interacted with Yi Qinghan, her heart that had been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years, to be moved by him. Of course, if it wasn't for Yi Qinghan seeing her naked body, the Ice Queen wouldn't have been able to break the seal so quickly. He had seen everything, and the relationship between the two of them had also become subtle. This was why Yi Qinghan's two unintentional actions and the fiery gaze in his drunken eyes caused Ice Queen to misunderstand. Her eyes revealed a never-before-seen expression. She glanced at Yi Qinghan and said angrily, Emperor Yu, how can you do that? Do you think Bing Mei is such a casual girl? Yi Qinghan was drunk and didn't care at all. He told Ice Queen to open the seal and casually passed her a wine cup which he drank before, causing her to misunderstand. Looking at Ice Queen's actions and hearing her words, he raised his head in shock. He didn't care about the feelings in Ice Queen's words. Instead, he said unhappily, What do you mean? What about me? You are not a casual person, but this great emperor is very casual? Your words, you want me to be casual? Chapter 1382. Pooey. Ice Queen scoffed. She was so furious at Yi Qinghan that she was confused. How could an emperor do that? He saw her naked, teased her, did that, and he still wanted to act like that? Ice Queen instinctively retorted, Emperor, you are so overbearing. You are a casual person, otherwise, why would you peek at me? If you aren't casual, then why would you have a secret affair with Queen Jui? When Yi Qinghan heard this, his pair of tiger-like eyes suddenly widened. He blew his beard and glared. He was extremely angry. Recently, he started to face the existence of the cold world. He started to face the sword-like threat from the God Emperor Supreme Being. He was already under huge pressure. Now that he drank some wine, he was even more worried. When he heard that, he was even more furious. Truthfully, Yi Qinghan didn't think that he was a casual person. Otherwise, with his current position, He could have as many girls as he wanted. Peek at you? That was a misunderstanding, an unintentional mistake. However, Ice Queen made it sound like she did it on purpose. Also with Zhu Yi, how could that be considered a secret affair? Wasn't it just having sex in broad daylight? Anyone with eyes could see that the two of them were lovers. Moreover, even if it was a secret affair, what did it have to do with Ice Queen? You said that I am casual? I'll just let you take a look. Using the drunkenness, Yi Qinghan's rage rose up in his heart. He made up his mind and slapped the table. He stood up and walked over. Ice Queen looked at Yi Qinghan's actions. She was so terrified that she stood up. Her eyes were filled with panic. Ice Queen's panic made Yi Qinghan even more arrogant. A thick and strong hand hugged her small waist. With a bit of strength, he pressed on her cold body. His other hand pressed onto the back of Ice Queen's head, causing her beautiful face to look up at him. Her mouth was filled with alcohol. Yi Qinghan said viciously, "Since you say that I am casual, then today I will let you take a look." Two lips with a hint of alcohol and a strong masculine aura pressed down domineeringly. Ice Queen's eyes opened wide. The first kiss that she had protected for hundreds of thousands of years was snatched away, just like that. However, while she was still thinking about her first kiss, she quietly lost even more. Her full breasts were also violently kneaded by a large hand for the first time, and then her round and perky buttocks were lost. When that fiery big hand quietly reached under her skirt and teased her last position, she finally woke up. Feeling a hot tongue chasing after her little tongue in her mouth, she flew into a rage out of humiliation. As she twisted her body, she fiercely bit down on that domineering tongue. Oh my! Motherf asterisk cur. Yi Qinghan is currently enjoying the feeling of ecstasy. The Ice Queen's snow-white smooth skin, her firm breasts, and her slender waist. Most importantly, her body wasn't as cold as ice, but just a little cold. It felt like a cool breeze under the blazing sun, causing the slightly drunk Yi Qinghan to be totally drunk. At this moment, an intense pain spread from his tongue, pulling Yi Qinghan back from that wonderful taste. He subconsciously cursed out, but the drunkenness in his mind faded away. Ice Queen's mind was originally blank after being violated by Yi Qinghan. Now she woke up from shock. Two pairs of clear eyes looked at one another, and then they checked on their situation. They were instantly stunned. Yi Qinghan was a womanizer. He was above grade 9. So how nimble were his hands and feet? In just a short moment, half of Ice Queen's clothes were ripped off. She was only left with a thin undergarment. Her proud breasts were trembling in the wind. She only had a pair of lace panties, which he had ripped off half of. The mysterious area was faintly discernible, tempting him to commit a crime. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan's situation wasn't any better. His clothes were in a mess, and the belt around his waist had already fallen to the ground, revealing his bronze skin. His underwear had already been bent to a frightening angle. The truth proved that there was another benefit to being strong. Yi Qinghan was able to strip Ice Queen in such a short time and also help her remove her clothes. His speed had already reached a terrifying level. Ice Queen was like a kitten whose tail was stepped on. She screamed and jumped up. She ran a few steps before running back in a panic to pick up the clothes on the ground. She even bent down to pick up her clothes, revealing a pair of perfectly round buttocks with half of her panties hanging down, revealing a deep cleavage, and gave it to Yi Qinghan for free viewing. Yi Qinghan's eyes turned bloodshot. The arc below rose once more. The wild aura on his body could scare a cow to death. Luckily, Yi Qinghan could barely control his consciousness such that he wouldn't do anything like a beast. Looking at Ice Queen panicking and wanting to flee in rage, Yi Qinghan was a little anxious. He blamed himself for being rude. He walked forwards and wanted to explain, but he didn't know what to say. He could only look at Ice Queen snow white, but twisting as she ran towards the entrance of the hall. "Boss, are you in secluded meditation? If you aren't, let's play chess. I am so bored that my balls hurt." Just at that moment, Xiao Hei's voice rang out in the hall. The restrictions of the hall had been activated. Xiao Hei's spiritual sense couldn't enter, so he could only use the voice transmission mechanism outside to send a message in. The moment he sent it, The two of them were so terrified that their hairs stood on their ends. Numerous side halls were filled with Yi Qinghan's women and children. If the two of them were noticed and news spread out, what would happen? Ice Queen, who was charging towards the side hall entrance, jumped up and instinctively retreated. Yi Qinghan was chasing after her. Thus, the two of them knocked into one another and fell to the ground. Boss, are you really in secluded meditation? Let me tell you, I'm really good at chess now. Come out and play 2 rounds. Yi Qinghan and Ice Queen were about to stand up in a panic, but after Xiao Hei's voice, the two of them didn't dare to move. The two of them exchanged glances with one another. They felt like a couple who were having an affair, and their wives had coincidentally returned. The two of them hurriedly hid in the closet, not daring to breathe at all. Hayes, it seems like boss is in secluded meditation. Forget it. I will find them. Xiao Hei asked twice, but Yi Qinghan didn't reply. He thought that Yi Qinghan was in secluded meditation, so he left helplessly. When Xiao Hei didn't make any more sounds, Yi Qinghan and Ice Queen exchanged glances with one another and heaved a sigh of relief. The two of them subconsciously turned their faces away, but in the next second, they suddenly looked at each other, and their eyes widened at the same time. The two of them had a guilty conscience. All of a sudden, they were terrified by Xiao Hei's voice. They didn't bother about the restrictions being activated and the fact that Xiao Hei couldn't use his spiritual sense to check. They fell onto one another, and in a moment of desperation, the two of them hugged one another and looked at the entrance of the hall. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was grabbing Ice Queen's thigh with one hand while his other hand was pressing on one of her breasts. Ice Queen was in an awkward situation, one hand pressing against his chest while the other was grabbing onto his breasts. This kind of extremely awkward situation caused the two of them to be dumbfounded. They looked at each other and were at a loss as to what to do. Chapter 1383. 3 more days and we will reach the demon plane. Boss, when the time comes, watch me, Emperor Xiao Hei, show off my strength. Boss, you have no more chess pieces, you have lost, Within a side hall, Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei were playing chess from Earth. When they saw that they actually won a round against Yi Qinghan, they laughed out loud. Yi Qinghan was thinking about something, but Xiao Hei tricked him. He smiled bitterly and helplessly. That day, Ice Queen hurriedly put on her clothes and fled. She hid in her side hall and didn't come out, making Yi Qinghan feel really guilty. That day, Ice Queen did come to discuss official matters, but she didn't come out and let Wind Moon Sovereign do it. It was originally a small matter. Wind Moon Sovereign and Ice Queen were discussing whether or not they needed to find a plane in the desolate land to build a teleportation formation. However, it led to a series of misunderstandings after the matter. Yi Qinghan felt that this matter was really unkind and disrespectful, although it was really exciting. However, Ice Queen's side hall restrictions were still activated, and she didn't come out. Yi Qinghan didn't have the face to apologize to her. After Ice Queen caused a ruckus, Yi Qinghan's suppressed emotions became much more relaxed. He came out in 2 days. He played chess with Xiao Hei and chatted with his wives. Time passed really quickly, and in the blink of an eye, they were about to arrive at the demon plane. No more. Prepare yourselves. Let everyone who is in secluded meditation come out and start to occupy the demon plane. First wipe out the demon plane, and then wipe out all the demon plane beings in the physical plane. Yi Qinghan pushed the chessboard aside and stood up. Killing intent exploded from his body, and his eyes shone brightly. This time he decided to wipe out all the demon plane beings to prevent any future problems. The 10 ancient races wiped out all the races in the plane and angered the God Emperor, which was why they were wiped out. Yi Qinghan was about to do the same thing, but he wasn't afraid that the Divine Emperor would punish him or even attack him. Every time an existential plane war took place, dozens of existential planes would be defeated and occupied by the victorious existential planes. Not every plane had an abnormal restriction genius like the War Emperor. Therefore, it was very likely that the defeated planes would be annihilated. Over the years, the number of races that had been annihilated was uncountable. Therefore, Yi Qinghan didn't believe that the Divine Emperor would punish them for annihilating a race. Otherwise, what was the point of winning and losing the planar wars? The demonic aura was incomparably domineering. As long as a wisp of demonic aura entered a material plane, it would be destroyed. It was very likely that this material plane would slowly be invaded, and in the end, all life would be demonized, becoming a low-level race in the demon realm. With such a strange divine ability, how could Yi Qinghan allow such a powerful threat to remain near the divine realm? As Yi Qinghan's order was passed down, all the martial artists in seclusion immediately came out. 10 million divine realm soldiers were ready to go, their morale high, incomparably fanatical and excited. Under Yi Qinghan's command, they were ready to tear the billions of demon realm creatures to pieces. However, what surprised everyone was the Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Temple stood outside the huge demon plane. Yi Qinghan did not order the entire army to attack. Instead, he ordered everyone to stand guard and wait for orders. He and Great Emperor Xiaohe were preparing to enter the demon plane. Although they had great confidence in Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe's strength, they couldn't bear to witness such a shocking battle. However, not being able to witness such a shocking battle that would leave behind such a scene in the history books of the God realm made them feel incomparably regretful. Yi Qinghan didn't look at the resentful gazes behind him. He brought Xiaohe out of the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Two figures, one green and one white, flew towards the huge demon plane. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from everyone's sight. At this time, the demon plane was in chaos. Ao Gu led a group of devil monarchs to the divine realm. However, the transmission array was destroyed and the demon world didn't know what happened. Then, an even more tragic matter occurred. The demon world received a divine decree and was forced to participate in the planar war. As a result, the few powerhouses of the demon world that went were all gloriously killed. Some low-level abyssals that escaped spread the news of Xiaohe's annihilation throughout the demon world. They also spread the news that the demon world was defeated and would soon be attacked by other planes. The demon world was in complete chaos. Without the suppression of powerful devil monarchs, countless Azura kings began to riot, crazily devouring low-level abyssals. Azuras also began to devour abyssals and devil kings. After several years of rioting and forceful devouring, more than a dozen devil monarchs had evolved. In addition to the original devil monarchs, the demon world now had more than 20 devil monarchs. But with more devil monarchs, the situation became even more chaotic. The demon world had 18 continents and more than 20 devil monarchs, and their strength was about the same. How could a devil monarch with no territory submit? Thus, a chaotic war began. Hiss, hiss. In the northernmost part of the demon world, Auguland was once the territory of the demon world's ancestor demon, His Majesty Ao Gu. Now, two demon armies were at war. Black mist tumbled, and an evil and cold aura enveloped this part of the world. Countless abyssals, devil kings, Azuras, and Azura kings bared their fangs and claws in the black mist. Sharp claws, fangs, and blood-red eyes were faintly discernible in the black mist. High in the sky, two 10,000-meter-long dragons were biting each other, fighting with all their might. Precious demon blood was scattered all over the ground, making it look like Azura hell. Ha! Ao Papa, you actually want to attack this devil monarch's territory? Look at your subordinates. How weak they are. Your strength is not even a match for this devil monarch. Since you dare to offend this devil monarch, you will all die today. In the sky, the two black dragons turned into two black lightning bolts, intertwining. One black dragon was smashed and sent flying, while the other black dragon stood high in the sky, its cold blood-red eyes filled with malevolence, making one's heart tremble. In a battle between demon armies, if the commander did not give the order to retreat, the subordinates would not dare to retreat. Otherwise, they would all be devoured when they returned. Therefore, although the devil monarch army, known as Ao Papa, was surrounded, none of the demons retreated. However, All of them were fighting with all their might and despair. They wanted to prove that they had once existed in their final moments. Haha, boss, these silly demon creatures are still fighting each other. At this moment, two auras that made all the demon creatures' hearts palpitate came from the sky, followed by a loud and arrogant voice resounding over Auguland. Humans? It's humans. It's the damn humans, the humans who killed our ancestor demons. Kill them, tear these two humans apart. Let them fall into the Azura Sea forever. All the demon creatures stopped fighting and raised their blood-red eyes, all locking onto Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe, who were slowly descending from the sky. Kill! The Azuras and Shura kings who were still fighting just now immediately became comrades and shot up into the sky. The evil and cold aura enveloped Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe, and the black mist rolled even more violently, about to completely cover the sky. Get down! Yi Qinghan did not make a move. He just let out a deep roar, and the power of cold circulated at full speed. A shrouding pressure immediately shrouded this part of the world. Countless Azuras and Shura kings, including the two black dragons, were crushed by this huge pressure and smashed to the ground. They could not even move and could only grit their teeth and howl. Yi Qinghan scanned the demon realm with his divine sense and said to Xiaohe in an extremely relaxed manner, "They are all lower 9th grade devil monarchs. Shall I do it? Devour this demon plane until not a single demon creature is left." Chapter 1384. The moment great Emperor Xiaohe, who surpassed the 9th grade supreme martial artist, made his move, it was obvious whether there was one or not. If one had to describe it, it would be a clean sweep, sweeping away 1,000 troops, unstoppable. At this moment, there were hundreds of thousands of demonic creatures fighting below, tens of thousands of Azura kings, and 2 devil monarchs. But in just a few blinks of an eye, the demonic army below, except for the 2 devil monarchs, were all corroded and swallowed. Originally, this part of the world was covered in black fog, and one could not see the ground below or the surrounding scenery. But now, it was swept clean, and the demonic blood that was still flowing on the ground could be seen clearly. The smell of blood on the dark red soil soared into the sky, extremely pungent. Despicable, despicable humans, the ancestral devils will not let you go. When the ancestral devils come out of the Nephi's abyss, they will definitely devour all the humans in the divine realm and turn them into demonic creatures. Your souls will forever fall into the Azura Sea. The 2 devil monarchs could not move under Xiaohe's huge aura and could only watch as their energy rapidly dissipated. The 2 devil monarchs knew very well that no one in the demonic realm could stop these 2 humans. They could only rely on the 3 ancestral devils in the divine realm to scare Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe. Ha! Ha! Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe laughed at the same time. Xiaohe condensed his true form and laughed until his stomach hurt. Looking at the 2 weak devil monarchs, he laughed and said, "Those 3 old things? They have long become my energy. And that devil monarch that you attacked the divine realm, they were all devoured by me. Also, can you change the way you speak? I want to vomit just listening to you. Go. Follow your ancestral devils and fall into the sea of cultivation forever." Xiaohe's body flashed, and he devoured the 2 devil monarchs again. Then he flew up and asked Yi Qinghan, "Boss, what do we do next? Should I sweep them away?" "No rush." Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and his knife-like gaze shot into the distance. Other than this place, the demonic plane was covered in black fog. His divine sense could explore clearly, but his eyes could only see up to 10,000 meters away. After probing for a while, Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "The demon monarch has discovered us and is currently gathering his army, preparing to join hands and kill us. This will save us a lot of trouble. Let's wait for them to finish gathering before we kill our way over." The demonic plane was in chaos. The aura that Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe had released, especially when Xiaohe had attacked, was incomparably huge. All the demon monarchs were alarmed. 2 humans appeared in the demon realm. He had even killed hundreds of thousands of demon citizens and 2 demon monarchs. As soon as the news spread, all the low-level demon realm creatures were incomparably furious. Of course, the demon monarchs were terrified. Countless devil monarchs immediately gathered and discussed for a while. It was clear that they had nowhere to run and could only fight to the death. The monarchs began to mobilize their armies and converged on Agu. The demon realm was huge, several times larger than the divine realm. The low-level demon realm spawned very quickly. Although Agu had brought a large number of demon realm creatures to the divine realm, and countless demon realm creatures had died in the planar war, there were still countless creatures in the demon realm. As orders were passed down, the demon realm immediately rioted. More than 20 demon monarchs led hundreds of thousands of Shura kings, tens of millions of Shuras, and hundreds of millions of demon kings and demons toward Agu. Like a swarm of locusts, the demon army rushed toward the north in a mighty and overwhelming manner. Halfway there, an incomparably strange situation occurred. While running, the demon monarchs began to devour the demons, tearing them apart and eating them alive. When most of the demons were devoured, the Shuras began to devour the demon kings, and then the Shura kings began to devour the Shuras. The strangest thing was that all the low-level demons seemed to have been cursed. None of them resisted, allowing the demon monarchs to tear their bodies apart, eat, and devour them alive. The demon kings behind them were devoured by the Shuras, and the Shuras did not resist. They did not even scream. Boss, so cruel, so disgusting. Xiaohe probed with his divine sense for a while and felt goosebumps all over his body. Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. Just a last-ditch struggle. They want to use the power of the demon realm to create a few more demon supremes. Xiaohe laughed mockingly when he heard this. Demon supremes? Or the kind of demon supremes we encountered in the planar battlefield that were forcibly enhanced? Haha, just as well. These low-level demons don't have much energy. Let them gather all their energy together, and this great emperor can save a lot of time. These demon creatures are so sensible and hospitable. How can this great emperor let them down? 10 days. Just 10 days. The vast demon army, tens of trillions of demon creatures, were all gone, leaving only millions of demon creatures. But all of them were above the Shura King level. Then, the Shura Kings began to fight. The demon monarchs also attacked. The biggest melee in the demon realm had begun. Demon creatures that reached the Shura King level had a high level of intelligence. Not a single demon powerhouse wanted to die. They all wanted to devour each other, obtain powerful energy, and evolve. In any case, the final result would be the millions of Shura Kings dying, and those that survived would become demon supremes. Since it was all for the demon realm, then who could become demon supremes and wage war with the humans? It all depended on skill and luck. The cruelty of the demon realm, the cold-blooded and merciless demon creatures, all of this was vividly displayed at this moment. Often, an Azura king would tear apart another Azura king's body and chomp down on it. Then, another Azura king would take this chance to rush over and tear apart that Azura king. Then it would chomp down on that Azura king without even chewing. What was even more terrifying was that when a Shura king was killed, 4 or 5 Shura kings would immediately rush up and divide the Shura king's corpse. After eating, before they could even wipe off the demon blood on their mouths, these 4 or 5 Shura kings would start tearing at each other again. The war continued. Demon blood rained down and lives vanished. The smell of blood in the air became increasingly rich, and the number of demon creatures in the demon world decreased. In the vast and boundless demon world, besides the ancient and lonely aura, there was only a group of demon powerhouses in the skies, struggling for the right to survive. Of course, there were also 2 humans that came from afar, quietly watching this tragedy unfold. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. But does this world really have to be so cruel? Yi Qinghan's eyes were no longer cold, but filled with confusion. He looked at the scene in front of him, and fell into deep thought. After a long time, he whispered to himself, "Life has existed since ancient times. Without competition, there would be no evolution. But in order to evolve, there must be competition, a cruel and brutal competition. A general success is built upon the bones of 10,000, and the glory of a powerhouse stands upon the bones of millions. Is this the so-called way of nature, or perhaps the laws of the world?" Slowly, Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly closed as if he had fallen into some sort of epiphany. Xiaohei felt his blood run cold as he watched. He felt that there was something wrong with Yi Qinghan. Turning his head to look, he discovered that Yi Qinghan's body suddenly emitted rays of gentle light. On Yi Qinghan's face, Blackie saw no joy, no sorrow, no anger, no sorrow at this moment. Yi Qinghan seemed to have turned into a Buddha. The aura on his body was enough to make people bow down to worship him. Xiaohei blinked, a bit puzzled. After a moment, he stroked his hair and flung it behind him. He gave Yi Qinghan a thumbs up and said with worship, "Boss, that's boss. You can even see demons eating demons alive and gain an epiphany. Your talent is truly abnormal. Of course, compared to me, great Emperor Xiaohei, there is still a bit of a gap." Chapter 1385. For the Tao of life to exist eternally, there must be vitality and vigor. However, in order to create such vitality and vigor, there must be a possibility for them to evolve, for them to be divided into ranks, and for them to compete. That is why the beings in the world of plates are becoming stronger, living longer, living more freely, obtaining more nourishment, fighting against themselves, fighting against their own kind, fighting against their natural enemies, fighting against the heavens, fighting against fate. In order for plants to fight against natural disasters, they must become stronger. In order for animals to fight against their natural enemies, they must become stronger, better at protecting themselves, more intelligent. Thus, wild beasts become demonic beasts become spirit beasts, and spirit beasts become vicious beasts. On the other hand, monkeys evolve into humans. Humans gain intelligence. In order to become stronger, they begin to use their intelligence to fight, scheme, plunder, kill. They begin to cultivate, to become experts, to become gods, to reach the 9th rank. This plate realm has hundreds of major planes, and each major plane has hundreds of millions of material planes. There are countless species within them, and even more living creatures. Every day, countless lives are born, and every day, countless lives die. This is a cycle. This is the Tao of nature. The Tao of nature is heartless and cruel. Thus, the world must be heartless and merciless in order to maintain the fairness of competition, to allow this competition to continue forever, to allow Plate Realm to exist forever. The laws of the world include life, death, light, darkness, destruction, space, time, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and other laws. They are the elements that make up this world. Of course, there is another miraculous use. It stimulates healthy competition, allowing the beings in Plate Realm to sense the Tao of heaven and earth, the Tao of nature. From there, they can borrow the laws of the world to obtain greater power. Competition includes good and evil. There are healthy and normal competitions, and there are also vicious and inhumane competitions. For example, destroying planes, exterminating countless races, causing Plate Realm to collapse and be destroyed. Thus, the planar wars were born. Thus, the manager of Plate Realm, Pan Xing, and the others existed. Too many experts would cause the balance of Plate Realm to become unstable. Thus, the planar wars had to start so that the experts would constantly die. When an expert's strength reached a level that threatened the safety of Plate Realm and threatened the laws of the world, Pan Xing, as the manager, would forcefully erase them. Thus, the 10 ancient races were destroyed. So that's how it is. I finally understand the profundities of the laws of heaven and earth. I understand the rules of this Plate Realm. Yi Qinghan stood on Auguland, the demonic plane, with his eyes closed, his entire body solemn and dignified. Holy light shrouded his body as he entered a mysterious state. A question that had perplexed him for many years was finally solved by him. The problem of the laws of the world in the cold realm. Why did the cold realm have the laws of the world? How could the cold realm have the laws of the world? Although he figured out the crux of the matter, Yi Qinghan found a bigger problem. He needed the cold realm to have all the laws of heaven and earth. Then, he needed to comprehend all the laws of heaven and earth. Sigh. The road ahead is long and arduous. I will continue to search high and low. The road ahead is heavy and long. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, but there was a blank look in them as he let out a deep sigh. The 7 supreme mysteries of life, death, light, darkness, destruction, time, and space, and the 5 elemental laws of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, a total of 12 laws of heaven and earth. He needed to comprehend all of them. Only by comprehending them himself could he bestow the laws of heaven and earth to the cold realm. No! Yi Qinghan ignored Xiaohe, who was looking at him like he was a lunatic. His pupils shrank suddenly, his eyes darted around a few times, and he spoke alone. The cold realm is evolving. I don't need to comprehend the ultimate mysteries now. I just need to comprehend the basic mysteries of each element. The basic mysteries can be fused into elementary, intermediate, advanced, and ultimate mysteries. As the cold realm is evolving, it is very likely that the 5 basic mysteries can automatically evolve into elementary, advanced, and ultimate mysteries. The cold realm itself can evolve automatically. What I need to do is bring him some kindling, let him turn into a prairie fire. All right. That's it. There's more. Yi Qinghan suddenly laughed out loud. His eyes shined with a brilliant light that illuminated the surrounding world. He said with incomparable certainty, the fact that my basic mysteries of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth are so easily comprehended must be related to the speed at which the cold realm evolves. As the cold realm evolves, it must contain some of the natural world laws, thus I can comprehend them so easily. But if I use the laws I perceive to drive the cold realm to evolve faster, and then use the cold realm to speed up my comprehension of the profound mysteries. Like this, wouldn't the speed at which the cold realm evolves and the speed at which I perceive the profound mysteries increase? That's right. That must be it. Boss, you've been rambling on and on for so long. But what are you talking about? How come I'm becoming more and more confused the more I listen? Boss, have you finished? The abyssals of the demon realm are about to complete their evolution. There are already 3 supreme abyssals appearing. Xiaohe scratched his head, a bit confused. Yi Qinghan continued to ignore him. In the distance, the abyssals swallowed even faster. The number of Azura kings continued to decrease, and the number of supreme abyssals continued to increase. Boss! Xiaohe called out several times. But he discovered that Yi Qinghan had suddenly vanished. He had vanished without a trace. Xiaohe rolled his eyes. He thought that Yi Qinghan had entered the War Imperial Palace, leaving him speechless. However, Yi Qinghan's cultivation was the most important matter. Moreover, with the abyssal swallowing, it would take several days before they finished. Yi Qinghan certainly wasn't so bored that it hurt his balls to enter the War Imperial Palace to perceive the profound mysteries. Rather, he had entered the cold realm. He wanted to bring some sparks of fire to the cold realm. Panshi, it was really you who played tricks. The moment that Yi Qinghan entered the cold realm, the door to the rightmost cabin at the peak of plate boundary suddenly opened. A black-clothed Pan Xing with curly black hair and a killing intent that could scare a 9th-grade overlord to death walked out. His eyes were filled with anger. Just now, he felt that someone had broken through the barrier of plate boundary. But, although he was strong, his supernatural powers and spells weren't as good as Pan Shi's. He simply couldn't lock onto the person who had broken through the barrier. It really wasn't that person or beast that broke through the barrier of plate boundary. It must have been Pan Shi who helped cover it up. Damn it, don't let me find you. Otherwise, I will make your life worse than death. I will make your plane barren." Pan Xing's eyes were like lightning. He swept through the planar battlefield, his eyes actually condensing a substantial killing intent. He stared at the distant void and hatefully said, 100,000 years from now, the next planar war will begin again. All the planes with surviving martial artists that participated in the last war will all participate. If I still can't find you, then I will open it again in another 100,000 years. If one time isn't enough, then I will open it twice, 5 times, 10 times. I don't believe that I can't find you. I can't find you. It really is him. A sigh came from the left cabin at the peak of plate boundary. She sat in the dreamy purple palace. Her eyes were like stars. She slightly raised her head and looked far away through the window. It was as if she could see the demonic plane far away. In fact, Panshi really did have this supernatural power. After Yi Qinghan returned from the planar war, she had been using this supernatural power to lock onto Yi Qinghan. At this moment, when Yi Qinghan disappeared in plate boundary, Panshi immediately concluded that he was the one who broke through the barrier of plate boundary. Panshi watched for a while, and the strange light in her eyes gradually faded. She picked up a cup of fragrant tea and took a sip. She frowned and murmured with doubt, "Young man who comprehended the supreme Tao, how did you break through the barrier of plate boundary? Why did you go outside plate boundary? What secrets are you hiding?" Chapter 1386. 6, 7, 8. There are already 8 supreme abyssals. It looks like there will be 3 or 4 more. Wah! How come the boss hasn't come out yet? I can't wait any longer. What a massive amount of life energy this is. I wonder if I can swallow this energy, will I be able to evolve again? Wah! If I can evolve again, will my strength reach the level of a god emperor supreme? Within the demon plane, Xiaohei's face was filled with excitement. Of course, there was also a bit of urgency. With so many supreme abyssals around, without Yi Qinghan to hold the line, he was a bit nervous. With Yi Qinghan by his side, even if he didn't do anything, he would still feel that the enemies in front of him wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. If things really didn't work, then wasn't the boss here? However, time slowly passed. In the distance, the number of supreme abyssals had already reached 10. But Yi Qinghan still hadn't appeared. Yi Qinghan hadn't appeared, and Xiaohei didn't have any ideas of his own. Thus, he didn't dare to move recklessly. One day later, the cruel slaughter had finally ended. With the birth of the last supreme abyssal, the millions of Azura kings had all vanished. In the entire demon world, besides the 12 supreme abyssals, there wasn't a single demonic being left. The demon world had gathered the strength of 1 trillion demonic beings from the demon plane and forcefully created 12 supreme abyssals to fight against the 2 invaders from the divine world. Hiss! Hiss! Kill, kill, kill! Fight for the holy world! Fight for the souls of demons! Tear apart all of humanity and turn the divine world into another holy world. Kill! 12 explosive roars tore through the skies of the demon world. 12 fierce and hideous-looking abyssals, their bodies still stained with dark red blood, turned into 12 black dragons that were tens of thousands of meters long. With an earth-shattering aura, they howled towards the north, aiming straight for Xiaohei. "The boss hasn't come out yet. Forget it. I'll kill him first. Come on. Let you evil creatures have a look at this great emperor's means." Xiaohei raised his eyebrows. Although he felt a little uneasy without Yi Qinghan by his side, he was not afraid. Instead of retreating, he advanced and turned into a series of afterimages as he flew towards the south. He suddenly disappeared in midair. Then, a blue dragon over 100,000 meters long suddenly appeared from the void and flew towards the 12 black dragons in front of him. The black fog churned, and 12 black dragons roared. A blue dragon quietly approached. 12 pairs of cold, blood-red eyes met with a pair of cold, mocking eyes. The evil demon blood below turned into small rivers that flowed like tendons. The air was extremely oppressive, and the winds and clouds stopped moving. Hiss, hiss! The 12 black dragons reared their heads back and roared. Their roars shook space and turned into ripples spreading out in all directions. 12 pairs of sharp claws covered in scales flickered with a cold light, and 12 long iron whips howled like wind and thunder as they smashed at the azure dragon. How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the sun and the moon? Xiao He smiled coldly. He did not let out a roar. Instead, he suddenly released his aura. Instantly, a huge pressure pressed down, and the 12 black dragons felt as if a mountain was pressing down on them. The 12 black dragons immediately fell to the ground and were pressed to the ground, unable to move at all. How strong was the pressure from Xiao He's 9th grade supreme martial artist strength? Back in the dimensional battlefield, the 5 kings of the one-eyed beasts had cultivated their strength honestly and were several times stronger than these evil demon supremes. However, under Xiao He's pressure, they could not even move, let alone them. Xiao He grinned and heaved a sigh of relief. If these evil demon supremes were suppressed, what threat could they pose? They could only wait to be devoured by him. Because Yi Qinghan was not around, Xiao He's somewhat anxious heart calmed down. He flew towards a black dragon below and started devouring it. Hiss, hiss, the 12 black dragons roared furiously. It was unknown whether it was because of despair or anger. Their roars pierced through the sky, and the huge sound waves caused the rivers of evil demon blood flowing on the 18 continents to flow even faster. Scream, scream. It's useless even if you scream until your throats break. Xiao He grinned and continued to devour another black dragon. His thinking was very simple. When he saw that these 12 evil demon supremes could not resist, he did not think too much about it. After all, these evil demon supremes would die soon. So what was the point of worrying so much? However, unbeknownst to Xiao He, the endless amount of evil demon blood on the 18 continents turned into rivers under the incessant roars of the 12 evil demon supremes. These rivers began to spread over all the continents. Xiao He was busy devouring and did not spread out his divine sense. If he was still in the air at this moment, if Yi Qinghan was still here, he would definitely be able to easily detect it. Suddenly, countless blood-red rivers appeared on the 18 continents. These rivers crisscrossed and formed a group of strange patterns. If one looked down from the sky, it was easy to see that these rivers were forming some kind of grand array, a super terrifying grand array. Hiss, hiss. The evil demon supremes were still roaring, and Xiao He was still continuing to devour. 2 hours passed, and Xiao He had already easily devoured 3 black dragons and 3 evil demon supremes. The remaining evil demon supremes roared even more fiercely, and Xiao He felt more and more at ease. I've already devoured 5 evil demon supremes, but I don't feel any limit to my evolution, and I feel that the energy in my body is far from saturation. Could it be that I can't evolve anymore? Or do I have to devour close to 109th grade supreme martial artists? Where there's so many 9th grade supreme martial artists for me to devour. If I act recklessly on the dimensional battlefield, boss will definitely not allow it. Xiao He happily devoured, while muttering to himself with some dissatisfaction. Unbeknownst to him, one of the southernmost evil demon blood rivers suddenly lit up. Then, this light, along with the crisscrossing rivers, began to spread wildly. If one were to observe carefully, the positions of the 18 continents of the demonic plane were very strange. Between the 2 continents, there was a narrow area that connected them. Now, these narrow areas were filled with evil demon blood rivers. The southern evil demon blood rivers lit up and spread rapidly in all directions at lightning speed. Before long, the entire southern Oba continent was lit up. At this moment, it was as if someone had used saltpeter to form lines on the ground and lit a fire in a corner. In an instant, the flames followed the saltpeter and burned in all directions. What was extremely strange was that these lights first began to light up in the outermost continents. There were 18 planes in the demonic plane. The outermost continents were 9 continents, and the 9 continents were surrounded by 5 continents. 3 continents were surrounded by 3 continents, and the 3 continents were surrounded by another continent. And the place where Xiao He and the 11 evil demon supremes were fighting was coincidentally on the continent in the center. Xiao He, who had devoured 6 black dragons and was preparing to devour the 6th black dragon, finally felt that something was amiss. He felt his heart palpitate, as if a great danger was approaching him. His cold eyes swept across the surroundings, and then his huge body swayed and immediately flew into the sky. His divine sense expanded, but he saw an extremely strange scene. Countless red lines lit up on the outermost 9 continents and the 5 continents in the second layer. These lines all emitted rays of red light, like an inescapable net that trapped him in the center. And those red lights were still spreading toward him at a terrifying speed. Chapter 1387. What the hell is this? Xiao He blinked, not knowing what to do. Without Yi Qinghan around, he didn't know whether to fight or flee. Just as he was hesitating, the red light had already spread. The entire demonic plane's 18 continents lit up with countless red lights. These red lights formed a strange pattern and shot up into the sky. Suddenly, rays of red light also appeared in the sky, crisscrossing and enveloping the entire demonic plane. It truly became an inescapable net. Black's heart pounded faster and faster. He could feel a deadly sense of danger looming over him, and he didn't dare to hesitate any longer. He shot up into the sky, trying to escape from the demonic plane through a weak point in space. Hiss. You still want to escape? You've been trapped by the God-trapping formation, and you still want to escape? Die. We've used all the power of our sacred world, sacrificed all our descendants, and used so much demonic demon blood to activate the God-trapping formation. If we don't tear you to pieces, won't our descendants have died for nothing? Kill. Devour him, and we'll become existences that surpass 9th grade supremes. By then, our sacred world will definitely sweep across the planar battlefield. The glory of our sacred world will be spread across the countless planes of Pangea. Under the illumination of this red light, the 6 black dragons below that couldn't even move all released a terrifying aura. They all flew up easily and charged toward Xiao He. And the most strange thing was that these black dragons all released a red light, making them look even more ferocious and terrifying. Xiao He flew up into the sky. The moment he touched the red lines in the sky, he felt as if he was struck by lightning. His body trembled in extreme pain. Hearing the words of the Demon Supremes and sensing their aura, Xiao He completely panicked. He roared in the sky, Boss, come out. However, apart from the echoes of Xiao He's roars, there was nothing else in the sky. The 6 black dragons below had already caught up. Xiao He had no choice but to turn around and fight with them. But the black dragons, which could not even withstand a single blow from Xiao He, were now glowing with red light. As soon as the blue dragon that Xiao He had transformed and came into contact with their bodies, he immediately felt as if he had touched a red line in the air, as if he had touched a ball of fire. Not only was he unable to corrode them, but they were also beginning to corrode his body and devour the energy in his body. Boss! Xiao He was scared silly. He had experienced countless battles and seen all kinds of big scenes, but he had always been with Yi Qinghan. He never had to think about anything. Yi Qinghan just pointed at him, and he would do whatever he wanted. Now that Yi Qinghan wasn't here and he was in such a situation, he panicked. All he could do was run as fast as he could within the demonic plane. There were red lines in all directions, forming an inescapable net that trapped Xiao He inside. The 6 black dragons also chased after Xiao He from all directions. Although Xiao He's speed was fast, the place was sealed and there was only so much he could do. The other party had 6 black dragons. For a time, Xiao He ran into walls everywhere. From time to time, he would crash into the red lines or get entangled by the black dragons, causing him to roll in the air in pain. Boss! Xiao He's body kept rolling in the air as he roared in pain. He was like a wild beast that had fallen into a trap filled with spikes. His body was getting weaker and weaker. A small portion of the energy in his body had been devoured by the 6 black dragons. His body, which was originally more than 100,000 meters long, had shrunk to only tens of thousands of meters. His strength was no longer beyond the 9th grade supremacy level. Judging from his aura, he could only be considered a 9th grade supremacy. As for the 6 black dragons, their strength had increased greatly. Their auras were all as powerful as the 3 ancestral devils in the Nephi's abyss. Seeing Xiao Hei's continuous roars, they all grinned viciously. His boss? So what if your boss is here? Aren't you just waiting to be torn apart by us? Don't worry. If your boss comes out, we will send him off and accompany you to the Azure Sea. Not only that, we will definitely win the next planar war. At that time, with our powerful strength, we will definitely demonize all living beings in the immortal realm and turn them into the lowest level of demons. Ha! The 6 black dragons laughed wantonly in the air as they chased after Xiao Hei like lions chasing a rabbit. Their blood-red eyes were filled with cruelty and malevolence. Is that so? Do you bastards have the ability to do so? Right at this moment, a gentle voice sounded faintly. A fiery red figure suddenly appeared in the north. He walked step by step in the air from the north. His steps were relaxed as if he was walking in his own courtyard. Every step he took seemed to cover a very small distance. However, with just 2 or 3 steps, he crossed the entire demonic plain from the far north and arrived in the south. He stood above Xiao Hei and the 6 black dragons. Boss, you've finally come out. If you hadn't come out, Xiao Hei would never have seen you again. When the tumbling Xiao Hei heard Yi Qinghan's voice, his body suddenly trembled. When he saw Yi Qinghan's figure crossing over, he immediately struggled to fly out from between the black dragons. When he condensed into a human form, he looked like a child who had been bullied and saw his parent. His face was pale and aggrieved, and he was about to cry. I'm sorry, Xiao Hei, I'm late. Yi Qinghan's expression was still indifferent, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. His gaze swept down like a knife, causing the souls of the 6 black dragons to tremble. Yi Qinghan did not release his aura, but just his gaze made the 6 demon supremes feel invincible and incomparable danger. The 6 demon supremes looked at each other, and none of them dared to make the first move. Boss, be careful. They've set up a strange god-confining formation. Also, the red light on their bodies is the same as the god-confining formation. It's so terrifying. The moment I touched it, the energy in my body flowed away like water. It was swallowed up by them. Xiao Hei said with lingering fear as he looked at the heavenly prison and earthly net that surrounded them in all directions. He looked down at the red light on the black dragons below and saw that the black dragons did not dare to move under the deterrence of Yi Qinghan's aura. He could not help but look at Yi Qinghan in surprise. He asked in surprise, Boss, you had another breakthrough? Why? Why did your aura become so powerful? I feel like it's more than twice as powerful. Just a slight breakthrough. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth curled into a smile. Then his eyes became fierce. He looked at the formation in all directions and sneered. Is this *T formation very powerful? Watch me break it easily. As he spoke, Yi Qinghan's body suddenly released a violent aura. The 6 black dragons that could easily fly under Xiao Hei's full aura, and because of the formation's support, were all smashed down, causing the ground to tremble. Yi Qinghan stood tall in the sky. There was no joy or sorrow on his face. His eyes were like lightning, and his black hair moved even though there was no wind. His hands danced, and the power of cold revolved, condensing into a small palm. As soon as this palm appeared, cracks instantly appeared in the surrounding space. It was as if a thin piece of ice on a lake had been forcefully slapped down by a palm. The cracks were like ugly scars that extended in all directions. It was as if the void had collapsed because of the appearance of this small palm. Go! Shouted Yi Qinghan. His gaze shot up into the sky. The small palm also slowly flew up into the sky. Although it looked very slow, it could travel thousands of kilometers in an instant. Moreover, it grew with the wind. Wherever the palm passed, cracks appeared in the space. By the time the palm reached the large net in the sky, it was already hundreds of thousands of meters wide. The slender white palm covered the sky, as if it was about to tear it apart. Boom! The large palm collided with the god confining formation. The god confining formation was like a heavenly prison net. At this moment, it released a blinding red light. The entire continent lit up, and even the black aura in the sky turned red and black. An earth-shattering sound, like a sudden clap of thunder, resounded through the entire demonic plane. At this moment, the sky was shaking. At this moment, the earth was trembling. At this moment, the entire demonic plane was shaking. A destructive aura pressed down from the sky. Xiaohei's pale face turned even paler. If Yi Qinghan had not stretched out a hand to grab him, he would have been smashed down by this aura. Xiaohei stared dumbfoundedly at the giant palm that easily tore through the constricting spirit quake and continued on its way. Xiaohei's expression changed several times as he cried out in disbelief. Boss, this attack of yours, are you really in ninth grade existence? Don't tell me you've reached the level of a divine emperor or a supreme. Chapter 1388. No, my strength is still far from that of a god emperor supremacy. Yi Qinghan turned around and smiled warmly at Xiaohei. He casually withdrew the huge palm in the air and said, "Do you still remember that a planar legion was killed by a god emperor supremacy's divine thunder at the peak of Mount Pan?" "Of course I remember." Xiaohei recalled and sighed with lingering fear. "I also said that if that divine thunder had struck me, there would have been nothing left of me." Yi Qinghan looked into the sky as if he could see through the demonic plane to the endless void. He said with absolute certainty, "I have recently realized something and understood something. I feel that even if a warrior comprehended the 9 ultimate mysteries, it would still be impossible for him to become a god emperor supremacy. Of course, it might be possible if he comprehended the 12 ultimate mysteries. No matter how strong a warrior is, he would not be a match for Pan Xing. This is because Pan Xing can control the laws of heaven and earth of this plane and destroy everything." Xiaohei stuck out his tongue and exclaimed, "So powerful!" Of course it is. All living beings in Pangaea are bound by the laws of heaven and earth of this plane. No matter how a warrior cultivates, he is borrowing the power of heaven and earth to kill his enemies. Pan Xing controls the laws of heaven and earth. Absolute control. Tell me, how could anyone be a match for him? Yi Qinghan said with a smile. There was no pressure or depression on his face. Instead, he stood proudly in the air. He could even talk about the strongest warrior in Pangaea with ease. Xiaohei sensed Yi Qinghan's indifference and asked in surprise, "Why? Boss, I feel that you have the confidence to deal with Pan Xing." "No." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "At least, not now." Xiaohei pondered for a moment, and his eyes lit up. He was about to speak when Yi Qinghan waved his hand and said, "All right, go down and devour them first. Devour all the energy they stole from you and replenish yourself." Hua Yao and Shui Er are probably getting impatient. "All right." Xiaohei grinned. With Yi Qinghan by his side, he no longer had to worry about anything. Wherever Yi Qinghan pointed, he would hit. This made him even happier. The greatest ancestral demon in the fiend realm was the ancestral demon who had obtained the Slaughter God Saber in the dimensional battlefield. He had spent his entire life to build the God Trapping Array. It was a God Trapping Array that could easily trap dozens of 9th grade supreme martial artists. Who would have thought that it would meet a freak like Yi Qinghan, who could destroy it with one palm strike? Once the God Locking Array was broken, all the red light in the sky and the river of demonic blood underground disappeared. The 6 demon supremes no longer emitted the red light that terrified Xiaohei. At this moment, under Yi Qinghan's powerful pressure, they couldn't even move. Mother asterisk Kerr, did you enjoy swallowing this emperor's energy just now? Is it fun to hunt me down? Didn't you want to kill my boss as well? What's wrong? Are they all withered now? You bastards! Let me show you what I'm capable of. Xiaohei had almost been killed by the 6 demon supremes earlier. He had been in so much pain that he wanted to die. Now that Yi Qinghan had come out, he had become a vile character who had achieved his ambitions. He transformed into a huge blue dragon and swung his tail. The 10,000-meter-long tail smashed heavily onto the bodies of the 6 demon supremes. Boom! A deep gorge appeared on the ground. The 6 supreme abyssals were smashed into the gorge. Little Black still wasn't satisfied. He twisted his body in the air, and his terrifying tail once again turned into a series of afterimages, smashing down continuously. Once, twice, 10 times. After smashing down 10 times, he finally transformed into a gust of wind and rushed into the ravine. He enveloped the 6 demon supremes, who were badly mutilated but still unable to move. Moreover, he didn't use all his strength to devour them. Instead, he slowly corroded them, preparing to let these demon supremes enjoy the feeling of being roasted over a fire. Yi Qinghan's control of his pressure was very ingenious. It fell directly onto the bodies of the 6 demon supremes, completely unaffected by Xiaohei. Xiaohei's devouring ability was extremely abnormal to begin with. If it weren't for the god-locking array, these demon supremes wouldn't have been a match for Xiaohei. At this time, they were in complete despair. They allowed Xiaohei to devour the massive amount of energy within their bodies. Hiss! His painful howls echoed out from the ravine. Yi Qinghan calmly stood high in the sky, unmoved. He didn't stop Xiaohei from venting his anger, allowing him to slowly torture the 6 demon supremes. As he recalled everything he had done in the cold boundary, he couldn't help but reveal a happy smile. In the past few days in the cold boundary, he had done many things and understood many things. He had also guessed some mysteries that had puzzled him for a long time. For example, his abnormal speed of comprehending the mysteries of the laws. For example, his abnormal strength. Right now, he was 100% sure that his strength was directly proportional to the degree of the cold boundary's evolution. In other words, the more perfect the evolution of the cold boundary was, the more powerful the power of cold would be, and the stronger he would be. There was also the speed of comprehending the mysteries of the laws. Although Yi Qinghan couldn't be sure, he had a rough guess. He deduced some principles. If the cold boundary really was a second plate realm, then the cold boundary's evolution would naturally contain some of the heaven and earth laws. This was because the heaven and earth laws were the elements that made up this world. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. These were the basic elements that made up this world. In other words, the reason he could so easily comprehend the mysteries of the laws was not because his talent was abnormal, but because the cold boundary was helping him. The cold boundary and him were one and the same. If the cold boundary automatically evolved and automatically comprehended something, then Yi Qinghan could easily comprehend it. Yi Qinghan concluded that if it weren't for the cold boundary, he absolutely wouldn't have been able to comprehend the mysteries. It would have been even more impossible for him to comprehend them so easily. In the past, when he was comprehending the ultimate mystery of space, Yi Qinghan had been incomparably puzzled. Why was it so easy at the beginning, but at the end, when he reached large success, he had been stuck for so long? But after he created the spatial vortex and completely stabilized the cold boundary space, he immediately comprehended the ultimate mystery of space to large success. How could there be such a coincidence? Now that the cold boundary space had stabilized, the elements that made up the cold boundary had also stabilized. In other words, the 5 elemental laws of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were naturally contained within the cold boundary. Thus, Yi Qinghan had been able to comprehend it so easily. As for the other mysteries, such as light, life, darkness, and so on, Yi Qinghan couldn't even begin to grasp them. This was because these laws did not exist within the cold boundary. Thus, this was why Yi Qinghan had come to this conclusion. Yi Qinghan concluded that along with the evolution of the cold boundary, he would be able to comprehend more and more mysteries. When the cold boundary's evolution was completed, he would be able to comprehend all 12 mysteries of the laws. Yi Qinghan finally understood why he had a feeling that when the Cold Boundaries evolution was completed, he would have the confidence to fight against Pan Xing. Because once the evolution was completed, Yi Qinghan would be able to comprehend at least 12 ultimate mysteries, reaching the strength of a god emperor or a supreme. Below, Xiaohe was still torturing the 6 devil supremes. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. His eyes were deep as he looked at the sky and murmured, "Time. What I need is time. Pan Xing, give me 1,000,000 years. If you want to fight, I will fight you." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.